Good morning, guys, or good afternoon if you're out on the East Coast. Looking at the weather scene down here near Fort Myers, you can see it's extremely windy right now. Don't know exactly what the wind speeds are, but they're running pretty strong for sure. You can tell by looking at this camera. I got some other ones to share with you guys too. So, been following this for, well, as you guys know, several days. A lot of the models are showing a wide variety of different things, but it does look like it is going to make landfall. In fact, it is making landfall right now. Near Cape Coral, Sanibel, Bonita Springs. Looks like as a Category 4. I had some requests to keep an eye on the tornadoes. And this area right here that you see south and west of Sebring, north and east of Arcadia, is under a tornado warning right now. That's what that red box means. Tornado warning. This is obviously the hurricane icons you see on here are hurricane warnings for this area and calling for a significant amount of rainfall. But right now, don't see any tornadoes. It would show a tornado icon if there were tornadoes in the area. None at the moment. A lot of heavy thunderstorms, obviously, heavy rain. And the elephant in the room is the major hurricane making landfall right now as I do this video. Last time I checked, it was moving north at 9 miles per hour. Maximum sustained winds of 155. That would make it a strong Category 4. And that's coming from the National Hurricane Center over here. They were showing, or at least some venues were showing high winds even higher over here at Ventus Sky. There's a plane going out to check on the eyewall right now, the pressure readings and wind speeds. That's this plane you see right here over at Flight Radar 24. That's Teal 71. It's been making nonstop trips to the eyewall for the last, I think, 3 days. I've been following that, maybe more. So watching the NOAA planes and obviously watching the storm, and this camera pretty much tells it all. This is near Fort Myers. It is windy, it's rainy, and it's going to be like this for an extended period of time. Even if the storm doesn't change forward speed, even if it stays at 9 miles per hour, I mean, it's only going to move 90 miles in 10 hours. So at the rate that it's raining right now, the rain, you can see it's just coming down in just sheets. And that's a classic tropical storm. I mean, I've been in tropical storms, guys. I was in a hurricane in 2004 that took this same exact path. And that was, where are we at? We're going to take another look at it. That was Hurricane Charlie. Hurricane Charlie was tiny compared to this storm. This storm it is absolutely massive. It's just huge. And like I said, the flash flooding, just flooding in general, are going to be so big, and the storm surge, especially if you guys are along the coast, you know, have a plan. I hope you guys are not anywhere near the eyewall there in the Fort Myers area. You know, that's not going to be any fun. So I hope you guys got out of there. I really and truly do. I'll be right in here. There's going to be tremendous storm surge back here at Port Charlotte. Punta Gorda, that's where Hurricane Charlie made landfall in 2004. And then Hurricane Charlie came right over my head, 125 miles away up here in Orlando. This is where I was at. And Hurricane Charlie made this journey. It was 125 miles, give or take a mile or two, you know. And did a lot of damage in the Orlando, Florida area. Kissimmee, it did. And the reason why, it by the time it got to Orlando, it was a Category 2, I think. And again, very small compared to this storm. This storm is probably 7-8 times larger than Hurricane Charlie. This storm is absolutely gigantic. But Hurricane Charlie came through, and there hadn't been a hurricane in the area for over 20 years. So the trees and everything had grown exponentially over 20 years, so they became bigger wind targets. That's what we're dealing with here. They haven't had a direct landfall down here in 18 years, with the exception of Hurricane Charlie back in 2004. So everything's going to be grown even bigger. Trees are going to be bigger. They're going to catch more wind, and that's going to equate to more power outages. Let me update this. This was 20 minutes ago. Looking now, Florida, 202,000 customers, all red. 200, just over 200,000 customers in Florida without electricity, and still have 342,000 customers in Puerto Rico. They're making progress, but still a lot of people off the power grid. And again, this camera says it all. I don't even know how it's online. I really don't. I don't know how it's hanging in there, but it is. It's hanging in there somehow. There's an idea of just how strong the winds are, and potentially could get stronger. Going back to the tornadoes, one thing I will say about tornadoes, I was in Hurricane Francis. Hurricane Francis came after Hurricane Charlie. Hurricane Charlie spawned tornadoes. I had friends that lost power for a month after Hurricane Charlie. Where I lived, the power lines were underground, so my power just flickered, and that was it. I didn't lose power during Hurricane Charlie. But people that had above ground power lines definitely lost power in the Orlando, Kissimmee, Windermere areas, and they were without power from anywhere between 2 weeks and 4 weeks. So expect it, that it's going to happen. This storm's a Category 4. Hurricane Charlie was a Category 4. And there's a lot of new growth. The tornadoes, here's the thing with the tornadoes. I paid attention to a lot of these storms along the way, and I've been in a few. Tornadoes do spawn, but here's the thing. A lot of them don't touch down. So, yeah, in fact, the tornado warning that was right here has expired. So I'll keep an eye on the tornado situation. Absolutely, I certainly will, and I'll let you guys know if I see any on here. But the majority of the hurricanes that spawn tornadoes, and a lot of them do, the tornadoes do not touch the ground. Some do. I'm not saying that they all don't, but they're primarily detected by radar in the cloud rotation. So yeah, it may show tornado here, tornado there, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's making contact with the ground. So, but we'll keep an eye out for that. Absolutely. Yeah, we're, I think, probably officially at landfall. It's 12:17 in the East Coast area, South Florida. So that definitely, to me, looks like a landfall. And look for this thing to slow down. There should be a new update from the National Hurricane Center here very soon. We'll see if the forward speed has slowed down any. In fact, let's just see if they've done an update yet. Still got it moving forward at 9 miles per hour, wind speeds of 155. And this thing could be a triple landfall, making landfall somewhere in possibly southeast Georgia, southern South Carolina. Could see yet another landfall right over in here, which would bring very heavy rains, and it would probably be, a tropical storm. You can see right now the winds have let up just a little bit. This camera is 75 at Palm Beach M141. And I mean, it's a trooper. It's hanging in there. It's been doing this now for a good while. I just did get online. Oh, yeah. I'm going to go to some other cameras here in just a moment, guys. Look at the wind coming through there. The rain is just coming through in sheets. And that's what I remember. And I also remember looking off in the distance because Hurricane Charlie came through at night. And I stepped outside as the eye wall went over. And this eye wall here looks like to me is probably, I don't know. Let's see, how could we measure this? I would say that eye wall is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 miles wide. So let's go to Google Earth. Okay, that's 40. Let's start a new one here. Let's just measure. And this is just approximate. This isn't anything specific. We're just going to kind of get a rough idea of, I'd say right in there, about 28 miles wide, close to 30. So the eye wall of this thing's probably around 30 miles wide. So here in about an hour, if you're in the Cape Coral area here along the coast, it's going to get real quiet. Yeah, the eye wall is going to be directly above you. I remember in Hurricane Charlie, I went outside because it made a nighttime landfall. And these winds right here will probably slow down to pretty much nothing for about, let's say if it keeps moving forward at 9 miles per hour, and it's, say, 30 miles wide. So for about 3 hours, you're going to be inside the very center of the storm. So it's going to be calm. I remember when Hurricane Charlie came through, stepped out, and the eye wall was very small. The eye wall probably wasn't 7 miles wide, if that, the interior eye. And I could look up and see the stars because it made a nighttime landfall. And then the backside of the storm came through. The front side was much stronger than the back side. I remember stepping out and watching the front as it was approaching the Orlando, Florida area. And the top part of the storm, right here, the very leading edge of the storm, it was shaped very much like this, but the entire storm could have fit in the eye wall of this storm here. No joke. Charlie was small, but boy, was it powerful. It packed a punch. And the top of the storm, look at that. Whoa. Almost a complete whiteout. Look at that. That's a heavy rain band right there. Holy cow. Boy, that is intense rain. It just doesn't rain. I don't think it can rain much harder than that. It's almost a complete whiteout. Looks like it's snowing. Look at that. But the top of Hurricane Charlie was a emerald green. I remember the top part of that storm was it was a beautiful color, but boy, was it eerie looking. The top part of it was like a greenish blue, I guess. And it was making a beeline right towards Orlando. And again, there hadn't been a storm through there in over 20 years, so all the trees had grown up, probably double what they were 20 years prior. So they were grown into power lines, much, much bigger, and they were like big canopies. They caught a lot of wind, like this camera's doing. It's small. It's the pole the camera's on. The pole is just swaying back and forth to the point where it's causing the camera to bounce. Wow. That is strong. Still going. That's incredible. Hope nobody's there. I hope you guys got out. I know there were mandatory evacuations for Fort Myers, more than likely Cape Coral. I mean, it sits right here on this very large intercoastal waterway, this big canal. There's going to be storm surge there. A quite large storm surge. In fact, as you can see, the eye wall of the storm's going right up that canal. So the storm surge is probably already starting to take effect in North Fort Myers shores, obviously Cape Coral. Don't see any tornadoes right now, guys. So tornado situation is looking pretty good, at least for the time being. But again, a lot of those tornadoes don't touch the ground. Here's the NOAA aircraft. Here it is right here. This is the plane that flies into the eye wall. See people here taking a tour of this big Hercules. That's a Hercules C-130. It's TL-71, and it's going to the eye right now as I do this video. So it's going to go in, take another reading, tell us if the eye wall is strengthening or weakening as it's getting. I don't know, boy. It's close. I mean, yeah, it's got to have made landfall, right? And that is yet another worst case scenario. It's going right up that canal. Oh, wow. There's going to be tremendous storm surge in here, guys. Probably like they've never seen. A Category 4, a major high-end Category 4 going right into Fort Myers. Wow. Yeah, this is a big storm, and that's what I meant by big. This type of storm going into, you know, an intercoastal like that, it's going to cause unbelievable storm surge. And when they talk about storm surge, you know, 9 feet, 12 feet, that's above normally dry ground. So, you know, even 3 feet of storm surge, which doesn't sound like much compared to 9 or 12, 3 feet of storm surge is very difficult. You couldn't drive your car in a 3-foot storm surge situation. And that's going to be easy 3-foot storm surge in there. I would say by the looks of the landfall direction, there'll probably be 9, 10, 11, 12-foot storm surge in this area here. Cape Coral, Fort Myers, especially if it coincides with the high tide. And if this thing stalls, that's what I keep waiting for, is the next update from the National Hurricane Center, which should be here in about 20 minutes. The forward speed, it's very important. That's a very important number. That's as important as the wind speeds and the rain rate per hour. You know, all of those numbers are important. Okay, I think the camera finally went offline, so we'll have to find another one here. They'll all probably go offline. Get a load of this here. See, that one won't even work. We're probably going to run into that because the winds are just getting so incredibly strong. I want to find one that gives us good perspective. See where we're at here. This is right where the hurricane's making landfall. Right in here. Cape Coral, Fort Myers. This area is going to flood, of course.
Okay, I found this on the web for is going to flood. Check it out.
Just trying to find it. There we go. See what this one looks like. If it's on, I don't even know if it'll be on. Nope. I'm going to run into this because there's going to be power outages. Obviously, there already are. And I don't know how many of these are solar. Even if they are solar, I have no way of knowing. There you go. Just kind of get an idea what's going on here. On the right side of the storm, this is the strongest part of any hurricane, tropical storm. Their right side strength is in most of the momentum is in the right-hand side. And that's what creates a storm surge, and that's where the majority of the high winds are, not all of them. And I remember with Charlie, the strongest part of the storm was in the front. The backside came through, and honestly, the front side of the storm did most of the damage. I remember looking out across the city, and I could see these blue flashes, just one after another, and they were transformers, reacting to the high winds, and they were lighting up the night sky, just one after another, and that was... Each time one would light up, the power would go off, and you could see the city start to get dark as the power was going offline from the very high winds from the front side of the storm. And as the back came through, the back wasn't near as strong. It was strong, but not near as strong as the front, like you see here front side of the storm is going to be stronger, but you're talking about a very large Category 4 storm. Again, this thing here is probably 7-8 times larger than Hurricane Charlie, aesthetically. And I just happen to be right in the path of Hurricane Charlie. Whoop. Yeah, ever since then, once I was in a hurricane like that, I've been following them ever since. I'd never been in a hurricane, never experienced one. And the windows were bowing in and out from the high winds and the extreme pressure on the building. The windows were literally bowing in and out. They were like breathing. And they were hurricane grade, windows. Let's see if this one works here. We're starting to see water pile up over here on the right side of this highway. Again, this is near Cape Coral and Fort Myers, where it's making a landfall. This camera is a little more stable. It's not bouncing, but we're seeing a lot of water on the right side of the road here. If I touch it, it'll turn off. I'm just going to leave it here for a minute. Actually, water on both sides. Maybe this is a little waterway or something, but we're just getting started here, and the water's already starting to pile up. Definitely landfall time. Right here. There's your landfall area. I would say Cape Coral, Sanibel, right here in this area. That's the strong part of the storm. One of the strongest right here on this right-hand side, and that's what we're seeing here on these cameras. This one here's starting to bounce now. Water's starting to pile up. Let's check the power outages. We're just going to kind of follow this thing and see how it unfolds. 254,000 now. Number went up by 50,000 in just, 10-15 minutes? Probably see more. It's just getting started. And in high water situations, they've got men and women stationed already right now away from the storm. Like the storm is heading inland down here, this way here. So there's power trucks sitting up here in the Florida Panhandle, and over here in southern Alabama, there's power trucks sitting here, waiting to come down here and reconnect the power after the storm moves out. And this storm's going to be around for a couple days, guys. It's not going to be over here on the east coast of Florida, and it's supposed to cause storm surge clear up here in the Jacksonville area. Storm surge here. Are you serious? Storm surge in not only the northeast part of Florida, but down here in the southwest part of Florida? I mean, that's unheard of. But nevertheless, that's the forecast, and it probably will verify. And the storm, it's already made landfall in Cuba. It's making landfall in Florida. So we could have a landfall here, come up, and then make another landfall in here. And the power trucks are waiting over here. So your power trucks are here. From what I understand, there's over 10,000 people waiting right here. That's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 5,000 trucks waiting right here to come in and reestablish the power wherever the power goes out. The trucks are here. This is where they're sitting. I saw this with Hurricane Irma, so I know they're doing the same thing with this storm. Trucks are sitting over here in South Alabama, the northern part of the Florida Panhandle, and as soon as this storm clears out, it will not be until Friday, because the storm's going to be right here for a couple of days. Storm's going to move from here to here. It's going to be 2 days. 2 days right in here, this area. So your trucks are up here waiting to come in, but they can't get in those trucks until the wind speeds are below 35 miles per hour. So you got the trucks up here waiting to come in, but they won't be able to come in until the storm is cleared out. So the storm may go out into the Atlantic and make another landfall. So then you're going to have trucks down here reestablishing power to the folks of Florida. And if it makes another landfall up here along the coast of Georgia or possibly South Carolina, you're going to need trucks up there as well to reestablish possible power outages in either one of those states, if it does indeed make a triple landfall. So that's kind of what's going on. The trucks are sitting up here. They're waiting, but they can't come in until the storm is gone, which makes sense because they have to stay safe. Totally get it. What's this one here? I don't even know. It looks like the camera's pointing at the ground. Yeah, we don't want that one. But there's about 5,000 trucks sitting up there, guys, waiting to come down and get the power back on, but it's not going to be anytime soon. Nearly 250,000 customers without electricity right now. As the storm's making landfall, looks like somebody there trying to get out of Dodge. That's probably a good idea. This thing's just getting started. And you know what? I wouldn't want to leave either. I totally get it. Because here's the thing. You know, there's been over 2.5 million people evacuate. And you know what? They did the right thing. They especially if you were in this area here. If you're right in this area here, you had to evacuate. You did the right thing. I know you didn't want to, but you did the right thing. There could be 12 feet of standing water above normally dry ground in this area here. Easy. Not counting the colossal rainfall that's coming down from the sky on top of it. When Hurricane Charlie came through, it kind of surprised everybody up here in Orlando and in the Kissimmee area, and it made landfall right here. Came in like this and made landfall here. It was supposed to make landfall like this up in Tampa and go this way. So people evacuated from Tampa over to Orlando. Over 1 million people evacuated from Tampa to Orlando, thinking the storm was going to make landfall in Tampa. It did just exactly like Ian did. It went right in here, took a deeper south landfall track, and then it went, and it maintained its strength, at least to a Category 2, right up into here, and tore up all kinds of stuff. It was a big old mess. Big old mess. So I can't imagine what's going on down here. Hurricane Charlie, let me show you how big Hurricane Charlie was. Right here. That's how big Hurricane Charlie was. Hurricane Charlie could fit in the eye wall of that storm. I mean, this thing is humongous. Then Hurricane Francis. Hurricane Francis came through after Hurricane Charlie. Hurricane Francis was as big as this storm here. Hurricane Francis was the size of the state of Texas. And it came in from over here. Yeah, Hurricane Francis was big. But you know what? It was a gentle giant. Didn't do that much damage because Hurricane Charlie had already done all the damage that could be done 2 weeks prior. So Francis was really mild. They implemented curfews and all this and that and the other, which because during Charlie people were not getting along well. The shelves, I'm looking at the Hurricane Hunter plane right here. This is the plane that flies in the eye wall of the storm. Right now, it's right here in the Gulf of Mexico. It's headed towards the eye wall. I'll show you. Right here's the eye of the storm. Just touched the coast. And that plane is right here. That plane's headed towards the eye. Watch. There's the eye wall, and there's the plane. See it? And the eye wall's right here. That plane is flying into that eye wall. Isn't that wild? I've always thought, man, how do those planes do that? But they do it time and time again. But yeah, Francis was a massive storm, but it just cruised across the state, took its sweet time, like this one here. It was moving, Francis was moving at 5 miles per hour. Took a day and a half at least to move across the state. I think it took a day and a half, something like that. I know curfew was 36 hours. Nobody could go anywhere because everybody was chaotic during Hurricane Charlie. Ran out of resources, you know, and they weren't prepared. So they wanted to make sure everybody was prepared for Hurricane Francis, even though Francis didn't do much of anything. Just a lot of wind. And rain, maybe 5-6 inches of rain. But it was a long duration Just an aesthetically large storm, that's all. This one here, and Hurricane Francis was not a Category 4. Hurricane Francis was, I think at best, a Category 1 or 2. It was just really, really big. And it sat off the coast for the longest time. And then slowly came on shore. Just trying to find another view here, guys. Here we go. We'll see what this one has, if anything. Holy mackerel, look at the wind. Wow. I think it's like vibrating. Look at the trees. And see those trees back when Hurricane Charlie came through in 2004 were probably half that size, maybe smaller. They've grown, and the bigger they get, the more wind they catch, and the more wind they catch, the stronger they become, and they fall, they break up from their own weight, really. Yeah, it's from the wind, but the wind causes their weight to get out of balance, and their own weight breaks off branches, and then the branches fall into tree line or power lines, and then you know the story. Mucho power outages. Let's look and see. 265,000 now. Went up another like 20,000. That's in Florida. So Florida now at 265,000 customers. The linemen and women that are up there in the Florida Panhandle and South Alabama, they're going to be very busy in the coming days. Look at this guy here, deciding to get out of Dodge. Boy, he's got Hurricane Ian nipping on his bumper right there. Yo, here comes another one. What? I figured these roads would be closed. Are you serious? Nothing like deciding to evacuate as the storm's making landfall. What are you doing? Oh, wow. I know, it's hard to leave though, man. It is, because you know that the storm could potentially damage your home. You want to stay and protect your property. I totally get it. But look, man, you can replace your property. Anybody that lives here has got flood insurance, at least you should have. And all that stuff can be replaced. Just grab your important documents and collectibles. I understand. I totally do. But don't risk yourself. There's only one of you. And you can't be replaced, man. Sometimes it's best just to get out of the way and let Earth do what it's got to do. Because Earth's always going to win. So just get out of the way and respect that. And, you know, roll with it. You got to rebuild or do some repairs. That's okay. That's part of living along the coast. That's part of living in this beautiful part of the world. It's not always, you know, beautiful. This can happen right here, and it does happen. Maybe not very often, but, you know, that's part of living along the ocean coastline. There could be tropical storms, especially in Florida. Not so much in California because the waters are colder. That's why there's no storms in California, because the cold coastal waters. These waters down here, right here in this area, right here, 87 degrees, right where that storm's at. So even though it's making landfall, it could strengthen a little. I don't know if the plane is going to get there in time. Tornado update, there are no tornadoes, guys. I've had a couple of people ask about tornadoes, keeping an eye out for tornadoes. I am keeping an eye out for tornadoes. And right now, according to this radar, and this is a good radar program, it's very reliable. Don't see any tornadoes. So, and remember, most of the time, tornadoes that are associated with tropical storms or hurricanes don't normally touch down, but that's, again, don't normally. Sometimes they do, of course. But I remember with Hurricane Francis, man, there were dozens and dozens of tornado warnings. And I don't think one of them touched down. I really don't. I don't think one. But the storm was so big, like I said, it was as big as the state of Texas, like 700 miles wide. So it had outflow rain bands 300 miles in each direction, north and south. And every once in a while, in some of those strong rain bands, a tornado would spawn, or the radar would indicate mesocyclone signatures, but that signature would remain in the sky. It didn't touch down, which was a good thing. Bad enough you're dealing with the tropical storm. You don't want to compound the situation with tornadoes. That's not cool. Haven't seen anybody over here in about 5 or 10 minutes on this road. But you know what? I've been in those evacuation scenarios, and I had somebody say, oh, well, he lives in Arizona. He doesn't know anything about tropical storms. Well, I beg to differ. I've been in 3, and I've studied them for 18 years, every year. So I'm very familiar with tropical storms and hurricanes. And when a situation like this, if you care about your fellow man, you want people to get out of the way. Because this one here was no joke. You need to get out of the way of this one. Here's the plane coming in. See, they're still checking on this eye wall. In fact, where they're at right now, they are directly, they're just slightly north and west of Sarasota. Let's see where they're at on the radar here. Check this out. That plane's right there where my cursor's at. Whoa, it's in the very strong, that north. Look at that. The plane's right there. It's taking readings, right? Sarasota, the plane's coming in right here. I'll show you where the plane's at. Right here. The plane's coming in. It's going to go right in here. And it'll take readings. So it'll go like this, and then it'll do it again this way, and then it'll do it again this way. That's what that plane will do. It'll go all around that eye wall taking readings to see where the strongest part's at. And I tell you, the satellite presentation of this thing is absolutely incredible. Look at how big that thing is. And it's not slowing down. I remember when it crossed Cuba down here, and you guys do too, when it crossed western Cuba. It seemed like that land just made it mad. Didn't influence it at all. In fact, the eye wall got stronger as it went across land. Are you serious? Look here, here's another one. What are you doing here, buddy? Are you serious? Man, you should have gotten out of there a long time ago. Can you imagine trying to drive in that? And you know what's going through their mind. They didn't want to leave their house, their property, whatever, their apartment, leave their stuff behind. It's hard to do. It's very hard to do. But you get to a point where, you know what? It's either me or your stuff. It's best to just get yourself to a safe place and worry about the other stuff once the storm passes. Yeah, don't risk yourself over stuff. You can replace stuff. Take your personal things with you, your important papers and collectibles, anything you can carry without having to get a truck. Just anything that could be damaged by a flood. Papers and collectibles. Take it with you. But it's hard to leave. It's hard to evacuate. There was over 2 million people evacuated from this storm. And, they're watching, wondering, okay, is my house going to flood? Is it going to be there when I get back? It's tough. I know, I've been there. It's because I live in Arizona. Don't mean I don't know about tropical storms. I lived in Florida. I've seen the evacuation process. I've seen people fighting over plywood. I've seen people fighting over generators. I've seen the shelves of stores with no food, especially non-perishables, gone. No bread, no tuna, no water. I've seen it. No crackers. Been there. Saw somebody try to take a generator out of the back of a man's truck that was filling it up with gas prior to the storm making landfall. Somebody tried to take the generator right out of the back of his truck. And this was pre-Hurricane Charlie. That didn't go down too well, trust me. So I've been right in the middle of all that chaos. Very familiar with it because I've been there and done that a few times. Doesn't make me an expert. I just know a lot about the process and how it goes down. And I know the feelings and emotions involved with these things. People don't want to leave their homes. They don't want to leave their apartments. You know, especially if it's in danger of being flooded or impacted by high winds. It's hard to do, man. I get it. This person here, they decided to leave at the last minute. Most of these people, I saw somebody going in. It's like, yo, this area here is going to be impacted by a lot of storm surge. Right here, it went south of Tampa. It's coming in right here, and common sense will tell you it's going to push water up these, you know, intercoastals right in here along Fort Myers. All of this area here. What's this one here called? Yeah, I'm going to get this one wrong. Here we go. Caloosahatchee. There we go. Caloosahatchee River. Caloosahatchee River. That's swelling right now as we speak. All of these intercoastals, they're filling up with water. Cape Coral. You guys know what's going to happen here. It doesn't take a genius to figure it out. This area here, we'll go down and take a look. Yeah, it's a beautiful place to live, but this here is 13 feet. Can you see that right there? I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's 13 feet above sea level right here. Beautiful place to live, right? Until a big hurricane comes along. But all of these people here were asked to evacuate. I think, in fact, Fort Myers, there were mandatory evacuations. They were driving through these communities here with loudspeakers asking people to evacuate. It's so hard to do. It is so hard to do. I get it. I get it, but don't risk your life. Just go, and it's going to be okay. Your stuff can be fixed or replaced. Take care of yourself. Let's check the power outages, guys. This is going to be a big 272, so it went up about 10,000 in just 10 minutes or less. And that's going to go up. I bet you if we click on, let's click on Florida, it'll show it county by county. Which county, if I can get on it. I don't even know if I can get on. It's probably overwhelmed with traffic right now. But I would say, just if we use common logic, the majority usually has a county by county breakdown, but as you can see, I can't get on it. But most of them are going to be down here where the hurricane is making landfall right now. Look at that thing. Satellite presentation. And you know what? This thing has been battling wind shear. This outflow channel you see right here, that's showing you the wind shear it's been battling. Right there. That's wind shear. Didn't phase it. Didn't phase it at all. Has there been an update yet? Let's look. No, still the same. But no, here's the plane. Look at that. Boy, they're brave, aren't they? They're flying into the eye of that storm. That plane right there is right there. You ask yourself, how can it do that? You know, how can that plane? And notice, I want you to notice, there's no other planes in this area. You know why? Because of the storm. No planes except these brave guys and gals flying into the eye of the storm right there. They're going for it. They're going in right now. They're right here getting readings. They'll go into the strongest part of the storm and tell us what's happening. But right now, guys, no tornadoes in South Florida that I see on here. And this is usually super accurate. Is it perfect? Nothing's perfect, but it's showing us no they call them mesocyclone signatures, and there are no mesocyclones other than the great big one, the elephant in the room that you see right there, named Ian. And if I had to guess, I'd say it made landfall as Category 4. I don't think it made it to a Category 5, even though it was close. If it would have made it to a Category 5, then it would have tied Hurricane Andrew as a Cat 5 landfall, right? But this storm's much bigger than Hurricane Andrew. It's going to have far-reaching, impacts clear up into the northeast coast. I want to show you how far away that is. Let's just measure. "250 miles away. Storm surge here and storm surge 250 miles away. I mean, that's just unheard of. On the opposite side of the state. Here's another car. And again, yeah, it's hard to leave. You wouldn't want to leave. None of you listening would want to leave your house behind, knowing that a massive hurricane is headed towards your home. You wouldn't want to leave either. But we're just no match for the hurricanes, especially of this strength. Yeah, people have ridden out hurricanes, and some of you listening have ridden out hurricanes. I myself have ridden one out. I rode out Hurricane Charlie. And the only reason I did is I knew my structure was sound. I was well above sea level. I knew I wasn't going to flood. And I knew that my, look at this guy here. They didn't want to leave their house. That's all it boils down to. I totally get it. And my power lines where I lived were underground. So I was 99% sure that I wouldn't lose power because the wind is not going to affect my underground power supply. Above ground on power poles, it affected every single one. So I took a calculated risk, and it ended up paying off. So my power just flickered. I didn't lose power. But I was ready. I had extra water. I had non-perishables. I had crackers. And I had like tuna, just in case the power went out, but it didn't. Never went out. That was during Hurricane Charlie. And then Francis came, and what's this guy doing here? Francis came, and there was over 1 million that evacuated. But the population wasn't as dense as it was in 2004 in Central Florida as it is now. In Central Florida, there's over 8 million people. You guys are going to experience flash flooding in Central Florida. Let me go to this is the National Hurricane Center, and here's an alert that they don't use very often. And I check this all the time. I have for 18 years. So, yeah, you don't hardly ever see pink on here. Even when hurricanes do make landfall, they'll be like, oh, moderate chance of flash flooding. I mean, this extends over, hundreds of miles. And the pink you don't see very often. So that tells you this area here, including Orlando, even though it's not making landfall here, this is very much like Hurricane Charlie. But the issue is going to be rain up in Orlando. Rain, rain, rain. Even over in Charleston, Savannah, Myrtle Beach. Look at all the possible flash flooding, but it's the pink. That pretty much tells you it's going to happen. Going to happen. That's a 2-day event, okay? 2-day event. Thursday, bright pink across all of Central Florida. Friday, bright pink across the majority of Central Florida. 2 days. It's a big event. Look at these guys here. Look at them. They're diving right into that eye wall now. They're in it. They're entering the eye wall. That's the hurricane hunters right there. You're looking at the plane going into the eye wall of Hurricane Ian. The plane is right at the edge of the eye wall right now as I do this video. It's experiencing winds stronger. And one thing that I'm sure most of you understand about hurricanes, and maybe you don't, or you've never really thought about it, the winds in a hurricane are stronger up here than they are at the surface. Okay, so the winds up here could be 180 mile an hour, but that doesn't matter because it doesn't affect you down on the ground, right? What matters is what the wind speed is at the surface. The wind speeds may be greater up in the 10,000 foot range, 5,000 foot range, but what we're worried about is the surface winds. Here's another tornado warning, this time on the east side of Sebring and south and west of Yeehaw Junction, right there. There you go, guys. Keeping an eye on these tornado warnings, and there's one right there. That's a new one. Let's go to click on it and read about it. Expires in 16 minutes. Probably a mesocyclone detected in the sky if I had to guess. I haven't even read it yet, but that's usually what they say. A severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located near Kissimmee Prairie Preserve, or 10 miles north and west of Bassinger, moving northwest at 30 miles per hour. See, radar indicated rotation. It wasn't seen, it was just detected by radar. So doesn't mean it won't show up and touch the ground. So you want to respect that and make sure that if you're in that area, just know that there could be a tornado there. It expires in 16 minutes, but look at all this here. Look at all this activity. Wow, that's hurricane. Let's read about it. We know what's happening here. That's Hurricane Ian. There it is. Category 4 landfall. That's St. James. 97 mile per hour winds reported at St. James. And see what I mean? It's the surface winds that matter. We're not necessarily too concerned about what's going on at 5,000 feet in the sky. We want to know what's happening at the surface. All right, let's see what's going on here. Bonita Shores. It's just showing that. Oh, there you go. This is wind gust, 82 miles an hour. And this is going to tell you the real deal right here, guys. 97 mile an hour wind gust. Let's check this one out. 79 mile an hour wind gust. Let's go in a little tighter. Let's check this one out. There you go. That's the first 100 I've seen. 100 mile an hour wind gust reported at Redfish Pass and Messonnier Site. So that's the first 100 mile wind gust, and that's coming up on shore near, well, actually it is on shore, but Cape Coral, just west of Cape Coral, 100 mile an hour wind gust. And the eye wall is just now starting to react. See that right there? See that deformation right there? It's starting to react to the coastline. That's all. But it's not going to change the rainfall rates. The rainfall is already there. It's embedded in the storm. The eye wall may change, and it's going to impact the strength of the storm. Absolutely. But the rain, it's there. It's coming, and this thing's going to slow down and drop just copious amounts of rain. For 2 days, 2-day event. You can see flash flooding across central Florida. Very high risk of flash flooding for 2 days straight. That's a really big deal. So I'm glad you guys evacuated that did. You know, that's the thing. You know, you want to see people get to safety when you know that this thing has the potential to put somebody in harm's way. You know, we care about one another. We don't want to see people in a bad spot like that, floating around in the middle of a street. Just get the heck out of there. Come back later. Now we're up to 278,000. Florida. Puerto Rico, 351. More than likely, if I had to guess, Florida, by the time this is all said and done, will eclipse what Puerto Rico is currently at. At one point, Puerto Rico was well over 1 million. We'll see if Florida enters that terrain. So it looks like right now the hurricane hunters, they left Biloxi. I think it was Biloxi, Mississippi. They're in the eye. They are literally in the eye of the storm right now as I do this video. And look at the coastline of Florida. No air flights. See that? That's a private jet right there. When you see a small one like that, it's a private plane. But look, no air traffic because the airports are closed. Tampa's closed. Orlando's closed. This plane here came out of Biloxi, Mississippi, I believe. That's a Hercules C-130. I think it's actually located in Miami, but it came out of Biloxi. Camera bouncing, not quite as much because it's probably in between an outer band. And it hasn't felt the full force of the eye wall yet. So it's coming. This is probably 20 miles, maybe not even that, 15 miles away from the eye wall. Wow, that thing is bouncing like crazy. Haven't seen any cars in a minute. That's good. Uh-oh, I think I see one. Man, I hope not. If there's somebody coming up over that road, that means they have literally got the eye wall of the hurricane on the bumper of their car. Dang, man. Wow, that is a big, big storm. And the storm surge in here is going to be incredible. Right there. Wow. It's probably going on right now as I do this video. You would not want to be in there. There's no way. Absolutely no way. You wouldn't want to be in there. Okay, let's look at the cone or the static images. It's 11 a.m. Time is it? It's 10, 12, 1. So we still got another hour for a new update, but definitely made landfall as a major hurricane. And you can see where it's going to be tomorrow at 8 a.m. right there. Actually, the eye wall will be over as a tropical storm. The eye wall will be up in the Orlando area. It'll be just up here tomorrow. Right here. That's all the farther it's going to go. In about 24 hours. From here to here. 24 hours. So it's going to drop rain. Hour after hour after hour after hour. So you see how the rain's going to accumulate? Because of its slow forward movement. I mean, tropical storm. We were in a tropical storm outer band out here in Arizona. And it's funny, you know, somebody said, oh, he's from Arizona. He doesn't understand tropical storms. We actually had a tropical storm in Arizona. I filmed it just to prove that we were in the outer band of Hurricane K. Hurricane K was another giant storm like this one. And one of the far outer bands, like you see over here by Fort Lauderdale and Jupiter, West Palm. Well, we were right in the center of one of these very thin, one of these narrow outer bands. Very narrow outer band of Hurricane K, and it was rotating counterclockwise. It wasn't just some stray storm. It was part of the outer band system of Hurricane K. I mean, it absolutely poured for over 3 hours. Poured down rain. So these over here are very strong. This here is a whole new level of strong. So the rain is going to accumulate. Once again, it's going to be 24 hours from here to here. So all of these rain bands just over and over and over and over. And that's based off of the forward speed right now. It could slow down even more. I know at one point wow, this thing is bouncing like crazy. I know at one time the models suggested that the forward speed could slow down to in the neighborhood of 2 miles per hour. Here comes another car. Are you serious? Look at that. They're fleeing. Look, they're in the eye wall. They're on the edge of the eye wall. Look at those headlights. You can barely see the car. Well, you know, that's some white knuckle driving right there. They're gripping that steering wheel at 10, 2 o'clock. I guarantee it, because they can't see. The blowing wind and rain. It's impacting their ability to see the road. They're getting out right ahead of the eye wall. Wow. Go, go, go. Unless that's rescue personnel. I don't know. It looks like a truck. But it doesn't look like a rescue vehicle. No, that's a utility truck. It's some sort of a utility truck, a work truck. Looks like a personal truck. But, you know, they probably decided at the last minute to get out of there. That was a good choice. But you know what, guys? It's hard to evacuate. You don't want to leave your stuff behind. And you got to take your pets, and you got to find a place that's pet friendly, and you know, 49 inches of rain, Joseph. Let me put it to you this way. When Hurricane Harvey was coming up to make landfall in the western Gulf of Mexico, I found one computer model that suggested 40 and 50 inches of rain for Hurricane Harvey. I found one. And this was 36 hours before it made landfall. And I looked at that, and I looked twice. And I'm like, there's no way. And you know what? It did it. So I'll never, ever again, when I see a 40 or 50 inch rainfall total associated, especially with a Category 4, like Harvey was, I'll never, ever question it again. Because it happened. Here comes another car. So yeah, when I see it, it doesn't surprise me because of what Hurricane Harvey pulled. So is it possible? You bet it is. And yes, it sounds obscene, but it does it. Here comes that's a car. So that's not a work truck or a utility truck. That's a very little car. In fact, that car right there wouldn't go through a foot of water. So yes, Joseph, when it said 49 and 50 inches, you know what? I thought of Hurricane Harvey. That's what I thought of. Okay, manifesting Marins in an evac zone. So you're riding the storm out. I get it. I don't blame you. Some people don't have anywhere to go, or maybe they waited too long, couldn't find a hotel to get to because I just saw a tree branch go fly or something. Because all the hotels are booked up. Look, I get it. I totally get it. I've been there. So I understand. How wide is the eye of the storm? Matt Williams. The eye wall is over 30 miles, right around 30 miles wide. So when the eye wall makes landfall, it's going to get quiet. The sun might even come out for a brief moment. And that will last for just over 2 hours based off of the current forward speed, which is 9 miles per hour. So it'll last, 3 hours. It'll be 27 miles. The eye wall is like 30, so it might last 3 hours. So yeah, and then you'll get the backside of the storm. But it's just getting started. It's going to be a long duration event. It's just getting started. So if you were in an evacuation zone, and if you were near a body of water, whether it be a river, a stream, especially a large canal or a river, and if you were anywhere close to it, you should have evacuated. I'm just saying. I know you don't want to, but if you're very near the coast and a body of water, you should have evacuated. If not, I hope you have a boat, canoe, kayak, or something, because especially along the coast, you're going to need it. It's not a drill. This is a very powerful storm that has a massive eye wall that's pushing water up into here now, and the water is going to overflow its banks and come up on the shorelines here. It has nowhere to go. Where's it going to go? It's not going to go stay vertical and stay in the canals. It's going to go on land. All of these waterways are going to flood, probably like they've never seen before. It's occurring right now, especially here in Fort Myers, Cape Coral. All of these waterways, all the way over here to LaBelle, Port LaBelle. This is all going to be just overwhelmed with more water than it can handle. Here comes the hurricane hunters. They're checking out the eye wall firsthand. They're in it. They're in the eye of the storm right there. That's the hurricane hunters airplane. I've been following these guys and gals for 2 days, and they have been flying around the clock. They're here in the eye wall right now. They'll do a cross pattern. They'll cross back and forth multiple times. They'll be here in the eye for probably close to 2 hours collecting data. And then they'll fly back to, here comes another car. They'll collect the data, they'll input the data, and then it takes, a minute or two, 30 minutes to process the data. Who's that over here? And then we'll know more about it. Hey, Trixie Cat. What's up? Thank you. Here comes another car. Trixie Cat. Look, I didn't evacuate during Hurricane Charlie. And I will say, during the peak of the storm, I was kind of like, okay, these windows are going to go. had a sliding glass door that was 8 foot tall that was bowing in and out, in and out. And I was like, okay. But I knew I was at no risk whatsoever with high water, not even close. But if you're near water, you're near the coast, you should have evacuated. I'm just saying. I'm always real with you guys. I try to be. Look at that. That's a personal vehicle. That's not a work truck or a rescue vehicle. That's somebody that decided at the very, very last minute, as the storm is making landfall, and you can see for yourself right here, it's making a landfall. And that road that you just saw is right here. They're right in front of the storm. In fact, they're in part of the outer bands. So, tornado update as promised. I promised a couple people I would definitely watch for tornadoes. I am watching, as you guys can see. If there were tornadoes, I can assure you it would be on this radar. There's not. So right now, that is good. But you've got a couple of days to go here. So tornadoes can and will spawn during these, especially these big energetic storms. The eye wall of this storm's 30 miles wide. The eye wall, the center eye wall, is as big as Hurricane Charlie. Yeah, that's how big this storm is. So this thing here has a lot of potential. It really and truly does. A lot of potential. You can see debris starting to collect on the road here. It's shredding these trees. These trees have gotten big since the last storm went through here, and this storm will definitely thin them out. I saw piles and piles and piles of debris many years ago from little old Hurricane Charlie. Man, it did a number on Orlando, no joke. Okay, Florida is almost equal with Puerto Rico. Florida, 298,336 customers. Puerto Rico still reeling from Hurricane Fiona, 305,444. So about 7,000 apart. 7,000 separate Florida and Puerto Rico with regard to current power outages. Almost exactly the same. There's the good guys and gals that are flying in the eye of the storm. Say they just made a turn to the southwest. They were heading due south. They're turning, and they're going to circumnavigate this eye wall. They're right here. They're in it. They are in the eye. Can you imagine? I'd do it. You bet I would. Absolutely, I'd do it. Keep in mind, the winds are stronger up at the top of the storm. What we're concerned with are the winds down here at the ground. Okay, let's see what this one... This is a wind report. Let's see what it says. 79 mile an hour wind gust. Let's see what this one says. I think this is the 100. Yeah, 100 mile an hour wind, but we already looked at that. We want new data, and it'll update on its own. It'll update when there's tornadoes on here too, so 77. So see what I mean? I'm not seeing any 150 mile an hour winds. It's the rain. It's a storm surge. It is the rain and storm surge. Again, this is going to be a long duration event, guys. I've been in several hurricanes. You've got trucks sitting up here. As I mentioned earlier, there's trucks right up here. They're waiting to come put the power back on. They're going to come down here, wherever they need to go, and start rebuilding, you know, the issues with the power grid. The thing is, this storm's going to come up here and it may make another landfall. So then they're going to have to get the thing sorted out here, which is going to take some time because the storm's going to cover such a large area. Yeah, Hurricane Andrew was a big, powerful storm, but it was just right down in here in the Homestead area. Not to downplay it, that was a big, devastating storm. But this thing here is going to cover a much wider area. It's going to affect the entire state. Are you serious? And then multiple states. It could go in here and create flooding and power outages. So this is a unique, one-of-a-kind storm. Absolutely it is. And if you were in this area here and asked to evacuate, you probably should have. I'm just saying. You probably should have. But I understand. It's not something that anybody wants to do. You're back to this camera again. You can see like parts of the trees now blowing over across the road. It looks like water starting to accumulate on this road. I'm sure there's drainage areas along the railway here to keep water from accumulating on those roads. You wouldn't want them to turn into giant troughs of water, so I'm sure they're properly, structured with ways for the water to run off, so they're probably not going to accumulate here. But notice back here, notice this getting taller. That's a waterway, and it's starting to fill up, and this has only been going on for a couple hours. So 24 more hours to go here in this area. What do you think it's going to do? It's just common sense. It's going to fill up with more water. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. So I'm staying on this camera because a lot of the other ones do not work for obvious reasons. Wait a minute, we can try this one here. Let me look. Last time I checked, though, it wasn't working. Hold on. See what I mean? Let me try to restart it. This one here was a really good perspective earlier, but... Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. There you go. Here's another look. And another car. This is Palm Beach at M141. Holy cow. Again, this is in the same area near Fort Myers, Punta Gorda. That was a car looking to get out of Dodge, But it's hard to evacuate. Just imagine, if you had to evacuate your home. You wouldn't want to do it. Of course not. Nobody wants to evacuate. There went another car there. But in a situation like this, especially here's a rule of thumb, If you're near the coast and you're near especially a river or an intercoastal waterway, I'm talking within 30 feet, 40 feet, maybe 50 feet, and a storm like this is approaching, yeah, you need to evacuate. Absolutely, 100%. Now, well, it's going to be terribly inconvenient even if you don't. Wouldn't you rather go somewhere that's going to, have running water and electricity and air conditioning, and let this thing kind of work itself out, and then go back and take care of things, and you keep yourself and your pets and your family safe? Yeah, that's what you should do. If you're near water that could rise, you can't fight it. There's no way it will win every time. You can hide from the wind, but you can't run from the water. There goes another car. You can't hide from it. The water, you can't hide from the water. You can hide from the wind. But the wind is not going to be the even though it looks like it, this camera's going loco here from the wind. Look at that. Unbelievable. But the wind is not going to be, as this thing unfolds and we look back historically, it's going to be the storm surge and the flooding, the incredible rainfall totals. Yeah, it may not get 50, but you know what? There were a lot of people that laughed when we talked about 40 inches falling in Houston with Hurricane Harvey. People laughed. They thought that was so funny. They thought it was so funny that a human being would consciously say that there's going to be 40 inches, possibly 40 inches of rain fall on one of the largest cities in America, until it happened. And then it was just like, wow, it happened. So when I said 50 inches yesterday, I thought of Hurricane Harvey and what I saw before Hurricane Harvey made landfall. And I, too, was like, there's no way 40 inches. And it did weigh. Oh, yes, it did. Because it stalled. And tropical storms, their job is to move moisture, move heat. They're heat engines. And it was a good one. It did its job. Now, it doesn't, recognize people and coastlines and buildings and things like that. It's just a natural storm that they form near the equator. They can't form at the equator. It's literally physically impossible for a storm to form at the equator. They're either 5 to 10 degrees north of the equator or 5 to 10 degrees south of the equator. There's a thing called the Coriolis effect, yada, yada, yada. But they can't form at the equator, but when the sun angle is in summertime mode in the northern hemisphere, they can form above the equator and not below. And now that the sun has moved back below the equator on the equinox, September 22nd, storms can start to form now in the southern hemisphere. And they'll start to fade in the northern hemisphere. But this one here was it was a big, powerful storm. It is a big, powerful storm. It's just now making landfall. Let's check for tornadoes. Promised I would. I want to keep my promise. What we got here? I think this. Oh, this is a mesocyclone discussion. Yeah. See, the big blue ring. That's what they're talking about. Tornado watch in this area continues. The risk of a few tornadoes should gradually increase across parts of central. Here we go. I'm going to read it to you guys because I know a lot of you were concerned about tornadoes. And it's a good heads up. Here we go. Summary. The risk of a few tornadoes should gradually increase across parts of central and east central Florida this afternoon, with a potential focus from Lake Okeechobee northward to near Orlando during the next few hours. So this area here that you see, this big blue circle, goes from just south of Orlando, and it'll probably move north and include Orlando as the storm moves north. But right now, from let's say Palm City, Buckhead Ridge, all the way up to Kissimmee, Williamsburg, stretching from just east of Fort Meade over to Palm Bay. This big circle here. For the next 3 hours, there's an increased possibility for tornadic activity in this region. And that reminds me of Hurricane Francis. It was the far right-hand side of the storm that was generating mesocyclones that weren't necessarily touching the ground. These could be altogether different, so we can't compare this to Hurricane Francis. This is an entirely different storm. Hurricane Francis, when it made landfall, I think was a Category 1. It was just giant. Oh my God, it was just so big. Like this one's big. It's Category 4, though. So this blue circle oval you see over here is a tornado watch for 3 hours. Big storm making landfall right now. And this thing will push a lot of water with it. It is pushing a lot of water with it right now as I do this video. It's 3, what time is it down there? It's 1:26. Look at this thing here. There goes a couple of cars right there. See them? I mean, that looks really intense. Here comes another car. Or there goes another car. You know, it's difficult to see because the wipers can't keep up. If you've ever been in a downpour, and I know every one of you have that are watching this video, you get into a thunderstorm that's raining so hard that your wipers can't keep up with the intense rainfall. That's what's happening here. So you got to use extreme caution. But the power is more than likely out here. So it's going to be out. We know how hot and humid it gets in Florida. I remember it. I mean, I'd wake up in the morning and the air conditioner would be set at a very comfortable setting, and we always joked about how you could sweat brushing your teeth during the summertime months. The humidity was so incredibly high. It didn't even have to be that high, but it was always very humid. It's part of being in the subtropics. Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida Panhandle, very humid. Okay, now look, see, it's getting kind of calm. Here's a car here. And you can see that's a personal vehicle. It's somebody trying to get out of the storm. The camera is stalling. Let me try to restart it. You know, I'm not surprised, to be honest. Not at all. Yep, went offline. See there's a prime example. I think it's trying to come back online. This is 75 North, Palm Beach. I-75 North. That was somebody getting out of the path of the storm. Might be back up and running. We'll kind of give it a break. Come back. No, this one's down too. So I will starting to take, and those cameras that we were just looking at were right here. They're right here, all of them. Right here at the very edge of the storm making landfall. Right in here is where they are. Right here, in fact. Right below my mouse. That's where the cameras were at. So they're getting the full brunt of the eye wall. Let's see where the plane's at. Hurricane hunters. They're in the eye of the storm. Let's see where they're at. There we go. Teal 71. They're in the eye of the storm. They're taking measurements, taking readings. I put together a little video here of the storm. This is a different satellite technique that's used from this specific satellite. It's a form of infrared, but you can just see the satellite presentation, and you can see how when it went across Cuba right there, how it was not even influenced. In fact, the eye wall got more defined as it went across land. I mean, that just doesn't happen, but it did this time. Look at that. So that told you that this storm here was no joke. It was the real McCoy, always has been. This is the real deal right here, man. No joke. Let me see if this is updated. Okay. So what I'm really wanting to watch is that forward speed. Right now it's still at 9 miles per hour. Maximum sustained winds are 155. Yeah, okay. That's probably up where that plane's at. Oh, here we go. This one's back online. And you know, when you're in an area like this, see how it's shredding those trees? You can smell that in the air. The greenery being shredded. You can smell the leaves being shredded in the air. See, there's somebody leaving right there. I don't know if they're coming or going. Which way are we going here? I-75 north. But that green stuff on the pavement there's leaves and branches. You can literally smell that stuff in the air if you're in that area. Happens during tornadoes. Tornado will go through, and say it goes through a forest or something like that. You can smell the greenery in the. Here we go. We're back online. I am totally surprised. Man, this, I don't know what this is on. If this is on a, obviously it's on a pole, but is it on something like this? You know, it's holding up a sign. Is it on a pole? I don't know. But the wind is just really putting this thing to the test, and so far it's hanging in there. Just incredible. I hope you guys got away from the water if you're close to the water. If not, look around for flotation devices that you could possibly use. Be resourceful. Something you might have to hang on to. Believe it or not, a cooler. A cooler will work. If you have a cooler that's got a lid on it, an ice chest, wrap duct tape around the lid, duct tape the whole lid, and hang on to that. That's an awesome flotation device. Yep, that's if you don't have a life jacket. Grab a cooler and close the lid so it won't open, and just hang on. That's a quick improv. In a tight spot, you need something to hang on to that'll float. Grab a cooler. Have I ever done it? Not in an emergency situation. Have I seen it done? Multiple times. And it does work. Boy, the winds here are really strong. The strongest gust I've seen is 100 miles per hour. But again, this thing's just making landfall. We're just getting started here. So, yeah, no 150s yet or 155s, but Punta Gorda, look right there, Punta Gorda. That is where Hurricane Charlie did a lot of damage back in 2004. I remember seeing the news, rooftops with heavy, clay tile rooftops blown completely off. And Hurricane Charlie was as big as the eye wall of this storm. Little bitty guy. But boy, he packed a punch, and it went all the way up to Orlando from Punta Gorda, which is, I just saw it right here. Right here. That's where it officially made landfall. It made a beeline up to here. And then, of course, it went on out to the ocean and dissipated. Didn't reorganize, I don't think. But it came up here as a Category 2. Yeah, and that's where this one's going to go. It's going to basically take the same path as Hurricane Charlie, but a much slower path. Right now, this is what they're looking at with regard to this storm. So, you know, everybody in Central Florida is going to be affected by this storm. That's a mesoscale discussion. That blue line you see right there. There could be tornadoes in this area. So, big heads up to you guys that were wanting to know about tornadoes. But just remember, a lot of times the tornadoes don't touch the ground with cyclones and tropical storms and hurricanes. They stay up in the sky, which is good. Yes, Florida outdoorsman, there is a ton of lightning. There was earlier. Talked about the lightning around the core of the storm. There was even more earlier. You're right, 100% correct. Good observation. Matt Williams, the storm is the eye wall is 30 miles wide. So when you enter the eye wall, you're probably going, if you're in that area, I hope you're not. I hope you evacuated. I really do, because you're going to be dealing with a lot of water. But anyway, Hurricane Charlie did this. Went from here up to here. This storm is going to come in, and Hurricane Charlie made it to Orlando in less than a day. It was moving very fast. I think it made it up there in like 12 hours. This storm here is going to take its sweet time and go all the way up Daytona. You guys are going to feel it. Orlando, Kissimmee, St. Cloud. And then the counterclockwise motion is going to keep water going into Tampa, Zephyr Hills, Spring Hill, Orlando. So it's going to keep going over and over and over. And I think that's why that one model was suggesting so much rainfall here in the Sarasota, Bradenton area, because of the long duration counterclockwise motion of rain in that area. So it's going to take the same path, same general path as Hurricane Charlie, from here up and possibly into southeast Georgia. Or I saw a model earlier that took it from here. Let me go back to my pencil here. That took it from here all the way up to Myrtle Beach. I did see that, which would leave it out over the ocean for about a day. So then it could strengthen to probably Category 1, maybe? You know, not a major. It won't be a major storm. But that's enough time for it to definitely strengthen to a Category 1. I just saw it with Typhoon Noru down in the Philippines. The typhoon made landfall as a Category 4. It was briefly a Category 5 when it made landfall in the Philippines. Crossed land, weakened to a Category 1. In fact, it may have weakened to a tropical storm. So the land did affect that storm, and it was a Category 4. But it re-strengthened and made landfall as a Category 3 over, I believe, in Vietnam. That was Typhoon Noru. Just made landfall within 24 hours. This one here, kind of similar, you know. It wasn't impacted by the Western Cuba impact. In fact, the eye wall actually got more defined as it went over land, which was kind of weird. And here we are. Category 4 landfall. Here we are. Tornadoes once again, guys. If you're in the west, I guess this would be what? West Central? Let's look. Yeah. West Central? I'm sorry, East Central. Florida Peninsula from Orlando down to Port St. Lucie and over to, I guess, Sebring, Winter Haven, this area here. Be on the lookout for tornadoes. This was not an evacuation zone here. The evacuation zone was down here near Fort Myers and Cape Coral. Obviously so. You can see why the eye wall's right there. Boy, that thing has a massive satellite presentation. And just a second ago, the eye wall was kind of collapsing. Now it's got itself reorganized again. Wow. So if you're in this area, see there, look, check this out. Captiva, prime example. Captiva right now, sun's probably out, right there. These barrier islands, these sounds right through here, you know they took on a lot of water, a lot of storm surge. But right now, for all intents and purposes, it's in the eye wall, it's quiet. It's not windy. I've been in the eye wall. I was in the eye wall of Hurricane Charlie, and it was a nighttime landfall. I looked up to see the stars, and saw the stars for maybe, it was pretty short-lived because the storm was moving pretty quick. Maybe 45 minutes, and then the backside came. And this storm here has got a very strong backside. Look at the dark colors back here. That represents high winds and heavy rain, just like the front half of this storm. So don't underestimate the backside of this storm. And we'll see with the next update, which should be any minute. Any minute now, there'll be a new update with regard to forward momentum and wind speed and things like that. And that update, look at this camera. Are you serious? I mean, I'm just surprised this thing's even working. There you go. You're seeing an eye wall interact with a camera next to I-75 near Cape Coral. Cape Coral, Florida, Fort Myers. That's where we're at. Just slightly north. This would be in North Fort Myers. Yeah, North Fort Myers. See it? The Cape Coral. When you can read the sign when it's not bouncing with the camera. Holy smoke. Look at that thing bounce around. Wow. It's amazing to see him working. Strong storm. I'm gonna check this other camera real quick. Hang on, please. Yeah, it's still on. Starting to see vegetation come out on the road from that counterclockwise motion. So we're looking towards. Which way are we looking here? Yeah, this is northbound, so we're looking south. See the water start to accumulate over here in this waterway. Not exactly sure which one that is. Harbor View. So it's a harbor over there. Let's check out the hurricane hunters. Now they're on the south end of the storm. So they're over here now. They're in this area, right where my cursor's at. So they're taking measurements right in here. Right in this part of the storm. They're measuring this very minute. This is in real time. That's where the plane is at right now. And that plane is this one right here. It's a Hercules C-130, 24 years old, and it flies into the eyes of hurricanes. That's what it does. That's what it was designed to do, and that's what it's doing right now. Let's see if there's an update. 9 miles per hour, 155. The last update or advisory was 11 a.m. It's almost 2 p.m. Let's see if they've updated it yet. Not yet. Still the 11 a.m. advisory. I'm very curious to see the movement, the forward speed of this storm. I'm very curious to see where that's at. That's going to determine how much rain falls in this area, or it's going to be a key factor. The slower, obviously, the more rain that's going to be received in these areas where it's at right now. The faster it moves. That's like with Charlie. Charlie was a wind hurricane. Charlie wasn't necessarily, it did create storm surge in a very small area down there in Punta Gorda, but it wasn't necessarily a big time flooding event because it was a small hurricane and it was moving very fast. This is the complete opposite. It's a big, powerful hurricane that's moving slow compared to Charlie. Charlie was booking at like 18 miles an hour, double this one here. So they're all unique in their own way. Here's a car here. Looks like that is going towards the harbor. I don't know if that's a good idea. See it? Because look, there's nothing open over here. This is where the storm's making landfall right now. So there's not going to be any type of services open. I wouldn't think there'd be any grocery stores open. They're going to have power, number one. And in this day and age, you have to have electricity to make transactions. So there's not going to be any place to get gas, any food, water, just basic resources are going to be unavailable for a while. So, you know, this area here is getting storm surge. Gasparilla Sound. This is what, the Peace River? It's filling up. And I think we're looking back towards the harbor here. This is where the cameras are. The cameras are right in here. We're looking at in that direction. Wow. Boy, those are intense. And you know what? The camera mount, you know, is going to make even, you know, an 80-mile-an-hour wind look, you know, pretty dramatic. But those are strong winds. Those are strong winds for sure. But I haven't seen one that's 155 yet, and we are watching. In fact, we can check right here. And this will show us if there's a strong wind gust oh, here's a new one. Let's see what this one says. Bonita Shores, 86-mile-an-hour wind gust was measured at the Earth Network site at Kalia Bay. So, you know, I haven't seen a 155 yet, but I'm looking, right? Let's see what this one says. Oh, that's 86. I already saw that one. 97. I think we've already seen that one. So this will update on its own. See the big, massive outer bands. These are heavy, heavy rainfall systems out here over into the Miami, Key Largo. Saw some video footage out of Key West. Some guys that were, you know, out driving around last night. There was storm surge coming up on the beach, coming up over the road. That was a good 50 yards at least from the coast. And that was last night around 8:30 Key West time. So again, long duration event, big powerful hurricane, close to a Cat 5. I don't think it made it. It was about as strong of a Cat 4 as you can get. Category 5 storm has to be 157 miles per hour. And that's measured by this plane. Look at that camera. You know, here's what I think. Here's the way I look at it. If there was a 157 mile an hour wind that went through here, that camera would not be working. Probably break it off the mount, to be honest. It's obviously very windy, but I don't think it's 157 or 150, even 155. But 157 would indicate a Category 5, and I don't think it made it. This storm here, though, or this plane, is measuring the strength right now. That's what that plane is doing in real time. It's measuring the strength of the eye wall of Hurricane Ian. It's right here. Can you believe that? That plane is right there in the middle of that storm. They're on the right-hand side. And that is historically the strongest side of any hurricane or typhoon. Let's look at the power outage situation. Right now, before I refresh the page, 298 in Florida, 305, and that's 305,000, 298,000. I'm going to refresh the page. Here we go. Florida took the lead. Florida now at 450,749 customers without electricity. Puerto Rico at 307,283. And again, Florida now has eclipsed Puerto Rico, at least for today. It's got a long ways to go to get to like 1.5 million that Puerto Rico saw. Maybe it was 1.6. I don't know. I know it was a lot. It was well over a million. Right now, Florida, 450,000 customers without electricity right now as I do this video from the ongoing landfall of Hurricane Ian, and the eye wall is still staying, you know, fairly well defined. You're seeing a little bit of deformation right there. That's because of the interaction with land. That's what they do. The walls collapse. Here comes a vehicle here. And this is right where that's right at the edge of the eye wall. Right there. They're literally fleeing in front of a eye wall of a hurricane. Now here in a little bit, probably in an hour, yeah, I don't know, maybe an hour. This area here, it'll get calm. See the car right there? And that's a personal vehicle. That's not an emergency services vehicle. That's a person getting out of Dodge. You can see vegetation accumulating along the road from the high winds. You can see the water starting to pile up over here in the harbor. And there's another camera here. Oh, wow, this got dark back there. See how dark that is back there? Oh, boy. There's another car. Getting out of Dodge. Yeah, that's the thing. You know, there's not going to be any power. There's not going to be any services of any kind for a while because they all require power. You know, you're not going to be able to get gas, food, nothing. So, but I understand. I get it. I totally get it. People don't want to leave their homes. Nobody does. Even if it is a Category 4, some people would rather take their chances, you know. But if you did, you know, look around. If you're close to water, you can see. You don't need me to tell you. You can just look out the window. You can see the water rising. Grab a cooler, duct tape it up, use it for a flotation device if you have to. It works good. Keep you float as long as you need. Hopefully you won't need it. I'm just saying it'll work. Boy, it's getting dark here in this area. Must be a thick rain band. That's probably the front edge of the outer wall, because where we're at right here in this area, I'm gonna show you. Go to Google Earth. We're right here. This is I-75. This is where we're at. We're right here. Okay, that's where we're at, and that's where the storm is currently. I mean, we're just right on the edge of the eye wall. That's why that thing is bouncing so much. We're right here on I-75. We're right here by Port Charlotte. That's where this one's at, and this one. That's by Port Charlotte. Whoa. Wow. You see why they asked people to evacuate here? Man, this thing is really, really strong, guys. And you know what? It's not going to be the wind. No, the wind isn't going to be the thing that the storm's going to be remembered for is the storm surge and unbelievable rainfall totals. Yeah, it's going to be varied from one location to another. You know, one county might see 40 inches of rain or 30, and another county might see 10. So they're going to be intermittent. They're going to fluctuate. Look at this car here. Looks like they're heading. Oh my. I'm not sure which direction they're going. Let's see. 75 north. That might have been the. No. That's a personal vehicle. It's not an emergency services vehicle. There's somebody right there ahead of the eye wall of the storm. Wow. But this storm will be remembered for storm surge and rainfall totals. Yeah, it's windy. Most tropical storms are. Even Hurricane Francis, when it came through, it was like a Category 1. You know, the wind was 40, 35, 45 for like 36 hours. Just went on and on and on. It didn't do any damage. This here's a different story. If a hurricane hasn't been in an area for a long period of time, especially up to 2 decades, then there's going to be a significant amount of damage because the taller trees are going to be bigger wind sails. So that's what happened in Orlando in 04. Here comes another car. There hadn't been a storm through there in so long that the trees had gotten so big they became just incredible wind sails, and they caught a lot of wind. Hurricane Charlie was a wind event. Even though it was small, it didn't bring a whole lot of rain. Wind. This one here has got a little bit of both, but it's going to be remembered for the water. I don't know if this is an emergency services vehicle, if this is a personal vehicle. Let's look and see. Oh, it's hard to tell. It's so much rain and bouncing. Looks like a personal vehicle. I don't even think the emergency services personnel can get out in this stuff. No, nobody can. That's the thing, you know. If you stay in a situation like this, it's just not good all the way around, because emergency personnel can't even get to assist you if you need it. So, man, I got my fingers crossed for those of you that did stay in these areas. I really do. Yeah, Barbara, I've already checked Null School, but I'll check it again. Yeah, and that's the surface winds, and you're right, Barbara. Null School, the surface winds, and if you go up to the 5,000 foot range, you'll see that the winds are much stronger at Null School, because you can go from the surface all the way up to like 10,000 feet. And when you get up to around 5,000 feet, the winds are considerably stronger, but we're concerned about the surface winds. That's what we want. But this right here, I can just tell by the way this camera is behaving. You know, it's about to go offline. I mean, it's dealing with the edge of this storm. So those winds there are stronger than 70 mile an hour. I'm sure of it. I've already shown you guys there's wind gusts reported of 100 mile an hour. In fact, let's go back to that and see if there's any updates. No tornadoes, guys, except for this area here. But there are no active tornado warnings other than this here. This is basically a watch. This big blue area you see here, they've got that encircled because conditions are favorable for the possibility of mesocyclone formation in that area for the next 3 hours. So just keeping an eye out for the tornadoes. But let's look at the wind strength here that was measured, a little while ago. 77 mile wind gust. Let's see what this one here shows. And I'm sure there were others. It's just not being reported. This one here, hurricane, large limbs are snapping off of hardwood trees. Water is covering, doesn't say, but large limbs, right here's the report. Large limbs snapping off of hardwood trees. That would be in this area here near Pineland. That's where that report came from. Large limbs snapping off of trees. Punta Gorda, this is where Hurricane Charlie made landfall. Wind gust of 79 miles per hour. So not seeing any, incredible wind gusts just yet, not seeing any reports. But I've also seen storms that made landfall that broke instrumentation. If I'm not mistaken, Ida a year or so ago damaged the equipment along the shoreline. It was remote out there by itself, but some of the equipment was damaged from the high winds. But I haven't seen anything other than the one report of 100 mile an hour wind gust. But I'm sure that will change as we move forward. There's a hurricane hunter out there now taking readings. In fact, let's look at the National Hurricane. Look at this camera. Are you serious? And there's somebody driving right there in front of this major hurricane. In fact, the camera has changed its position. The wind's got so strong. Remember, we could see the road sign. We can't see it now. This camera's about to be broke off of its mount. I'm not surprised. I'm surprised it's working, to be totally honest with you. Well, there's a lot of rain and wind there. So the camera's about to break. That's what we're watching right here. This camera is about to be broken off of its mount. This I-75 north of mile marker 141. This is just north of Fort Myers. And I'm talking just a couple of miles north of Fort Myers. Wow. I'm surprised this camera has lasted as long as it has. Boy, it's been put to the test here. They see how it's now. We're looking at this wall over here, and there's a house. It looks like obviously a lot of trees, and those trees are catching all of that wind. And believe it or not, that tree right there is 30 feet tall. It's windier up there than it is at the surface. It's a little windier at 30 feet than it is at the ground. It's even more windy up around the 200 foot, 500 foot, 1,000 foot. That camera is just about out of commission. This one here is, it looks like, at least temporarily. I was looking for a new forecast. Let's see, we're still at the 11 a.m. advisory. Let's check and see. I'm going to refresh the page. Here we go. Yep, here we go. 2 p.m. Intermediate advisory. Okay. Movement is still at 9 miles per hour. That's forward speed. Still showing maximum sustained winds at 155. Well, I haven't seen any at 155, so this here may tell a different story. See how the plane is crossing back, how it'll cross back again like 2 or 3 more times. This is the Hurricane Hunter plane right here. You see over here on the left in this photo? That's a Hercules. That's a Hercules C-130. That's a big plane, but it is loaded with equipment. Right inside here are all types of computers and different types of instruments, and they drop things into the storm to take measurements. That's what this plane was designed to do. So it's going to cross back across the eye wall multiple times. It's flying in now, going this way. It's flying to the northwest across the center of the eye. I would say landfall has definitely officially occurred. These cameras aren't even working now. Let's see if I can refresh it here. There we go. Back online. I don't know for how long. The road over here is turning green. Look at that. That's debris from the trees. See the branches and stuff just being chewed up by the high winds. And this other one, I don't know how much longer it's going to last. In fact, I think it may have broken. I don't know. Like it was having a hard time. Let's see if it'll come back online. Oh, there's a car there. Look. What? What in the world are they hauling? They got a trailer with something on the back of it. Holy cow, what was that? This camera here is situated on I-75 at mile marker 141. And this is near Fort Myers. Yeah, you can totally tell that there's a situation here. Yeah, if you're in Fort Myers, man, I'm telling you, look around for flotation devices. Just saying, use a cooler. Use a cooler with the lid duct tape closed. That's an excellent flotation device. If you didn't evacuate, I hope you did. I really do. I hope everybody evacuated out of that area, especially Fort Myers and Cape Coral. See the water starting to pile up over here? You can see the harbor. It's filling up with water. These folks here decided to get out at the last minute. And see how it's starting to get a little bit brighter? It's because we're going to enter the eye wall here in a minute. And if the camera still works, you'll see that it'll stop raining. In fact, it's 2 o'clock there. So the sun's still fairly high in the sky. So the sunlight will come through the eye wall of the storm. That's a personal vehicle. Because again, emergency personnel can't get out in this type of weather. That's a personal vehicle, somebody leaving the area, you know. And now the roads in some places are going to be impassable, you know, if you can even get out. I hope they're okay. There goes a vehicle right there going in. He's going into the eye wall. Well, you know what? here in just a moment, the eye wall will be over this area, probably in like 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes. It won't be windy. It won't be raining. The sun will come out. We'll be able to see the harbor over here that's taking on a lot of water. This has grown right here in this area exponentially. The water is way up here now. And when I first started this, the water was back here where my cursor's at. So the water has came up this far, and it's still going. You couldn't see it earlier up here. So this has grown. This is taking on a considerable amount of water. But here's the thing. It's going to be interesting to see. This camera is right here on this road. It's right here, in fact. It may not... well, hold on. Get my bearings here. Yeah, that's where it's at. So, hold on. Double check here. Yeah, that's where it's at. Okay. So it might experience the eye wall. I don't know. It'll be close. It may stay in that right-hand quadrant, which will mean it'll be in constant wind and rain and won't catch a break with regard to experiencing the eye wall. But right now, Captiva, Sanibel is so close to the eye wall. Cape Coral, parts of Cape Coral, western Cape Coral. Bokelia is in the eye wall. Rotunda is in the eye wall. So this area right here, there's not much happening. It's clear. There's no wind in the eye. That's how it is with every storm that has a large, defined eye wall. I've been in it. It's very calm. There's not even any wind. Okay, update on tornadoes. This is a tornado warning near Yeehaw Junction, south and west of Palm Bay, due west of Sebastian. Tornado warning that expires in 24 minutes. So this means that there was a tornado spotted, maybe just in the sky. Let's read and see. National Weather Service, 2 p.m. out of Melbourne. Tornado warning for northwestern Indian River County in east central Florida, southwestern Brevard County in east central Florida. Okay, let me go back. Sorry about that. At 1:59 p.m., a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located over Blue Cypress Lake, moving north 25 miles per hour. Radar indicated rotation. So again, goes back to what I was saying earlier. The radar indicated it. It wasn't necessarily seen or reported by anybody. So doesn't necessarily mean it was on the ground. But this area here, you can tell it's a very high energy part of the storm that could produce mesocyclones. And there's always a chance they could make contact with the ground. Absolutely. That's why they report on these things, because they could. The majority of them stay up in the sky, but that is not textbook. They could always make a touchdown with the ground, make contact with the ground. Absolutely. Boy, the eye wall is hardly being influenced at all by the interaction with the land. That's incredible. That is just nuts. That is a strong, strong storm. Looks like we've got a tree now on the road. See? See how it's getting brighter and brighter? This is getting closer to the interior of the eye wall. See how this road here, at least this part of the road, almost, this right-hand, left-hand lane is almost impassable. It's got a tree or two in it. And a lot of greenery. And you can smell that stuff in the air. Yes, you can. If you've ever smelt fresh cut lawn, say you cut the grass and it was a little bit damp, and you can smell the vegetation. You see that flying through the air? That's what this smells like in this area. It smells like chewed up vegetation. But you can kind of see a blue sky over there. Isn't that nuts? You're experiencing the eye wall getting closer and closer to this area, the inside of the storm. And that's what the hurricane hunters see when they're up here. In fact, they're probably looking... where are they at? They're right here. Who's that cat? Wow. Okay. Yeah, these guys are probably right in the center of the eye wall right now. Yeah. So they're probably in blue skies too. So we see these planes flying into these storms, and we're thinking, wow, how do they deal with the high winds, stuff like that? Look, every plane that's up in the sky deals with high winds. It's always windy up there. So, not anything new for aircraft. This camera here, wow, it's just about out of commission. Look at that. That is nuts. That's I-75 North at mile marker 142. This is in the Fort Myers area. The camera has been partially broken off of its mount. It was pointing at the road. It's not supposed to be pointing in this direction. So the mount broke. It pushed the camera to the left. It was pointing at the road, showing a road sign, you know, with Fort Myers and Cape Coral on it, and it showed I-75. And now it's looking at a sound wall. That's what that wall is for, to keep the road noise away from the community over there. And it's showing a community. You can see trees, you can see a house, but not anymore. The camera mount finally gave way to the wind. But again, this storm won't necessarily be remembered for its wind. It'll be remembered for storm surge and heavy rainfall amounts. Will it reach Hurricane Harvey status? Nobody knows. People weren't expecting Hurricane Harvey to do what it did. But it did. So it looks like... Wow. I honestly don't know how the camera's even working. Okay, guys, you're going into the eye of a hurricane right now. That's what we're doing here. For real, we're entering the eye of a hurricane. See how it's starting to get really bright over here? Let me show you where we're at. We're right here. We're right here, looking this way. We're looking into this harbor right here, and this is where we're looking. That's why it looks blue, because you're entering the eye of the storm right here. So it'll still be a little breezy. Nothing like this here. I mean, that is unbelievable. But here, you're getting ready to enter the eye of the storm. It'll stop raining because there's no clouds in the eye. It's wide open. You can already see it starting to let up some. And you're looking at the harbor over here. I'm not exactly sure the name of this area here. But look at the vegetation here blowing over onto the road. That's just from just constant, non-stop, strong winds and rain. And the rain saturate the trees, which make them heavier. And then some of them break. Like we saw a report from the coast where large branches were coming off of trees because there has not been a storm make landfall, direct landfall like this, a major storm, in many years. So those trees have grown and grown and grown for, I think, close to 2 decades. So they've gotten bigger, and these storms thin them out. I saw piles and piles and piles of debris after Hurricane Charlie, and it took weeks. It took literal weeks to get all of that cleaned up. And people screened in patio canopies around their pools. They completely encompass the pool out back. You know, keeps gators out. And that's another thing, gators. You know, with all this inland flooding into these canals and waterways and stuff, gators are going to be, you know, disoriented. Different types of marine life, possibly snakes, are going to be disoriented. They're not going to know what's going on because there's going to be more water than what they're used to. So all this area here is taking pretty much the brunt of Hurricane Ian right now. Punta Gorda, Northport, go down here, and right there is Northport, Punta Gorda, and Port Charlotte. This area right here is seeing most of the activity. Right in here. Right there. So the water is coming in here, Boca Grande, and up into all these canals. They're going to be taking on all that water for quite some time. It's just getting started. Still right there. It's just getting started. But we might see... Oh, now the winds kick back up. Okay. Thought there for a second we were entering the eye wall. Maybe we were just right on the edge. Okay, this would be like the inside, this area here. Whoa. Okay, this is a unique perspective here, guys. No joke. You are inside the eye wall of the storm. You're right here. You're right here. See this area here? This is where we're at, right here. So, I don't know that we'll enter the eye wall. It depends on the path this thing takes. But we're right on the edge of the eye. We can see blue sky over there for a moment. But not anymore. And it still may reveal itself. I don't know. Because I don't know the exact path of this thing. They updated it. It looks like to me it's about the same. Swinging out. Now they have it making landfall in far southern South Dakota as a tropical storm on Friday at 8 p.m. You know, there's nothing good about any hurricane landfall, especially when it's at night. Even though it's going to be a tropical storm, right now they have tropical storm warnings in effect for coastal Georgia, coastal South Carolina, and hurricane watches. But it looks like right now, according to this most recent model run, it's going to go through basically Daytona, Jacksonville as a tropical storm, re-enter the Atlantic Ocean, remain a tropical storm, and make landfall in far southern South Carolina on Friday, which would be right in this area here, which also has intercoastal waterways. So around Hilton Head Island, that looks like where it's going right now. Go right up here. Shell Point, right up here, and then obviously up inland by Beaufort in this area here. Maybe Savannah. Savannah will definitely be impacted by that. Could move directly into Savannah. Have to wait and see. This has been fluctuating back and forth. At one point, it had it making a third landfall up here in Myrtle Beach. So it's moving farther and farther to the south. So more than likely, Savannah will definitely be impacted by this storm in some capacity on Friday. And we'll have to wait and see. And that of course, is subject to change. There it is, major hurricane, Category 4 Ian, making landfall, moving north-northeast at 9 miles per hour. We're going to check the power outage situation again. Before I refresh the page, it's at 450,000, and that's in Florida. I'm going to refresh it. Here we go. Over at poweroutage.us. Went from 450 to 483,000, and that's in Florida. So we're getting close to 500,000 customers. Let me see if I can click on the counties. I'm sure they're in southwestern Florida. It does not say. Normally it updates pretty easily, but I'm sure with the high volume of traffic that it's having a difficult time doing so. Here's the hurricane plane. It's in the eye wall just off the coast of Sarasota, and that puts the storm right out here. It's in the middle of the eye, right in this area here. Actually a little bit north of the eye, right in here. And it'll turn around and come back. So right now it's just north of the eye wall. In the far north outer bands, it'll turn around and come back and go through the eye wall again. Tornado warning, still have the same tornado warning right here. In fact, that might be a new one. Let me look. Nope, same one. Expires now in 11 minutes. So keeping an eye on the tornadoes, guys. It's going to be like this for 2 days. The storm's going to cross the central part of Florida. It's going to be like a slow-moving jumbo Hurricane Charlie. Hurricane Charlie was fast and small. This one's going to be big and slow. Obviously, look at these outer bands, see? And those are heavy rain. Those are loaded with rain. We were in one out here in the desert of Arizona. Hurricane K brought one of these outer bands, just like you see right here, all the way up right through south central Arizona. And we were in the middle of it. And I mean, it poured. It absolutely poured for 3 straight hours. Didn't look like this, but it was a steady downpour. Probably got an inch of rain from it. And it was a far outer rain band. Look at this camera. It's about to come off the mount. This is near Fort Myers, Port Charlotte, Cape Coral, Punta Gorda, right where the storm is making landfall. I'm going to go back to the one that has the vegetation on the road, which is right here, I believe. Yeah, see, it's still windy there again. I thought we were entering the eye wall, and we're close. But boy, it looked like it just got stronger. You can't hardly see the road now. Yeah, those winds got much stronger. So we're on the edge of the right-hand side of the storm. You're looking at the right-hand side of the storm of Hurricane Ian in real time. That's the right-hand side of the storm, which is historically the strongest part of tropical storms and cyclones and typhoons, that right-hand side. And that's what you're looking at. You're looking at this in real time. It's got those trees so saturated over here that they're leaning onto the road, being chewed up by the high winds. Just the friction from, rubbing against each other, that looks like part of a tree there laying on the road. All right, guys, we may be entering the eye wall here. I don't know. It doesn't really look like it. I think the storm is kind of moving a little bit to the north, keeping this camera at least in the right-hand side of the storm. So thought we were going to see the eye wall, which is always kind of cool. I mean, it's not every day you get to enter the eye wall of a hurricane, but I don't think we are. We're going to stay in the strongest part of the storm, it looks like. Holly, are the wind speeds worse on the right-hand side of the storm? Not always. Not always. I've been measuring this one here, and at times the wind speeds were stronger on the back left, believe it or not. But not always. But historically, yeah, the strongest part of the storm is the right-hand side. As a rule of thumb, the biggest part, strongest part's the right-hand side. But there's multiple factors involved. Sometimes there can be wind shear that influences the right-hand side of the storm, which would weaken it, and then by default making the left-hand side stronger just because of the right-hand side wind shear. But if there's no wind shear and it's just cruising right along, the right-hand side, because of that counterclockwise rotation, is going to be the strongest. Pull up I-75 at Kings Highway, appears to be moving north, mile marker 172. Okay, I'll check that out. I think I was on there earlier. I remember Kings Highway, and that is Zane. Thank you, Zane. I'll check that out. I was on there earlier. I know I was. I remember seeing Kings Highway, and I think for some reason, let me try to find it here. There it is, right there. Got it. What we got going on here, Zane? There it is. Kings Highway 171. Oh, entering the eye wall. Yeah, I think you're right. I think the eye wall at least is it looks like a lot here, but maybe just a few miles. It's moving a little bit to the north. These things wobble. They wobble a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. They don't function on a beeline path. They wobble left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. You know, to 5 miles here, 5 miles there. They wander a little bit. It may end up being a straight path over the course of 100 miles, but over that 100 miles, it wobbles back and forth. You can see the median here filling up with water. It's Kings Highway on I-75 north at mile marker 171. See the interior there loaded with water. I'll try to find another camera that works here a little closer to the coast. These haven't been working. For obvious reasons, they're in the middle of a hurricane. Boulevard of the Arts, US 41. Got to be honest, doesn't look too bad there. And oh, I know why. This is in the eye. Yeah. Absolutely, that's in the eye of the storm. So this is coastal Sarasota, which is right here. This is where that camera's at, just north of Siesta Key. And I think the airplane is also just slightly north of that area. See, it's how it's turning around, getting ready to make another pass through the storm. That's what it'll do. It'll do that for the next couple of hours, or however long it takes to make like 4 passes through the storm. But that's a hurricane airplane right there. Okay. Yeah. Well, now that storm, Sarasota, is up in the far northern part of the storm. So, yeah, it's not really that rough up there, at least at the present time. It's windy, you can see some rain, but not that bad. And that's in the Sarasota area, right up here. Okay, so that'd be north of Siesta Key. Go down here to this. I'm trying to find something along the coast that might be in the eye. Maybe here. Yep. Most of these are offline, and for good reason, man. I don't even know if this one's working, is it? See, the mount got broke. That's looking at the ground or something. Just trying to find a decent view here, guys. Go over here at Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte. Wow. Okay, that's the harbor. Right over there. That's why there's no trees there. That's water. Boy, it's just like being inside of a washing machine. Let's see what this one looks like. I think I was on this one earlier. Nope, doesn't work now. Here's the one we were on earlier, showing the debris on the road. It's right on the edge of the right-hand side of the storm. Okay, starting to see little glimpses of blue back here. That's the sky, man. That's the eye. But we're not quite in at 100%. We're close. Actually, really close. This camera here, the mount broke. This camera was looking at the road over here. It was showing this road sign. This is the back of the road sign over here. It was showing the road side on the southbound lane. Or northbound, no, southbound lane. Now you're looking at the back side of the sign over here because the mount broke. There's a little vehicle there of some sort. I don't know what that was. Boy, this has been a doozy. Officially made landfall as a Category 4. And it'll slowly, 2 p.m. Wednesday, which is where we're at now. This is the most recent update of all kinds of activity here. Hurricane warnings and tropical storm warnings. That's the red and blue you see here. Storm surge warnings. This thing's going to be on the coast, the inland part of Florida today, Wednesday at 2 p.m. till Thursday at 8 p.m. One thing I wanted to show you guys with regard to the storm surge, this is why they were requesting that people leave the area right here. This is where we got one of the cameras right down in here. Bonita Beach. See that purple? That's 12 to 18 feet potential storm surge. And that's 12 to 18 feet above normally dry ground. I mean, that's just unheard of. These are rainfall totals from the Weather Prediction Center. This is going to obviously fluctuate considerably, but they're going 15, 20, you know. It could be more in some areas and less in others. Storm, surge, inundation. And this is where we've got the cameras. Okay, we're on a camera right over here, but see the red, all these areas. There's Port Charlotte. The cameras, we're on a camera right in here. Okay, and we're looking at this harbor here. All of the red that you see are potential storm surge greater than 9 feet above normally dry ground. And, you know, you can just pretty much figure that out on your own. A Category 4 comes barreling in here like it is right now. Water is going to be pushed in with it. So the water can only go up. Has nowhere else to go. So all the places you see in red are 9 feet or greater. All the areas of orange are 6 feet or greater. And all the areas of yellow are 3 feet or greater. And even in 3 feet, you can't operate your car. So that's why they were, asking people to evacuate, if you could. I mean, it's still a doozy. Look at that thing. Still very well defined. It's got an incredible satellite presentation. That eye wall went right into the harbor. And the strongest part, that's where we've got these cameras right here. Right there. We're in the strongest part of the storm. That's why this one here has been bouncing around. The bracket got broke that holds the camera. Look at that. You're in the strongest part of the storm right there. That's where you're at. You're on the edge of the eye wall of a Category 4 hurricane that's going to be remembered for its storm surge and incredible rainfall totals. Not necessarily the wind like we're seeing here. Yeah, it's windy. Well, it's a tropical storm. Well, it's actually a hurricane. It's going to be windy. But it'll be remembered for its rain and storm surge. Flooding. And Barbara was right. There's places you can go to check surface wind speeds on the Earth, anywhere on the Earth. You can figure out the wind speeds, wind gusts, sustained winds. Yeah, it's very windy here because we're right on the eye wall of the storm. But, when you extend out from the storm, most of the winds are, a tropical storm force. Even 30, 40 mile an hour is probably, gusts here and there. Maybe 50 in places. But near the eye wall, it's pretty rough. I mean, right in here, we're probably seeing wind gusts of 90, 100 miles per hour. But I haven't seen any that showed 150 or 155 as of yet. But, you got to keep in mind this is an ongoing event. I don't necessarily have access to, all this data. This data is in an extreme environment, these data retrieving devices. So, they aren't all designed for extreme situations like this. So some of them do break, just like this one you see right here. This is just a highway camera. My goodness, I don't know how it's even staying attached, but you can clearly see that, it was not designed for long duration high wind events. And I'm talking 75, 80, 85 mile an hour. If there were 155 mile an hour wind impacting this, it probably wouldn't be here. Probably would have been long gone. Let's check on the tornado situation. Still about the same. Got a tornado watch. I think that's about to... Oh, this is a new one. Okay, this one expires in 23 minutes. Again, this is going to be an ongoing thing for the next 2 days. Tornado warning for Brevard, Southern Brevard, Southwestern Brevard, East Central Osceola. Used to live there. Radar indicated rotation. So again, this was not spotted on the ground by somebody. This was detected on radar by some very keen people that are watching the radar, observing, at a much closer level here in a localized area. We're looking at a national radar here, looking at the overall big picture. They're keeping an eye on localized radars, and they saw some that showed mesocyclone signatures, which usually indicate rotation. Doesn't necessarily mean it made contact with the ground. So, tornado update, none on the ground right now. It is absolutely just windy. Very, very windy. This road here is almost completely covered, at least this section here. That's from that right-hand counterclockwise. So you can tell which direction the wind is blowing. It's coming from this direction and moving from left to right across our field of view. So this would be east, and this would be west, and we're looking south, and that's the harbor. I thought we might get into the eye of the storm, but it doesn't look like we're going to. This part is going to, or at least this view of I-75, is going to remain in the storm. Well, it's moving 9 miles per hour, so Storm aesthetically is huge. I don't know how big the storm is. I never measured. I did measure the storm from side to side. It was 914 miles. But this part here, from over, I'm talking over here to over here, when it was at its biggest point, I measured it as it was approaching Florida when it was way back here. From side to side, outer band to outer band, it was 914 miles wide. Now, this here obviously isn't, maybe 100 miles. We can check it. We can go from Fort Meade to the offshore of Marco Island. Let's go to Google Earth. Let's take a wild guess here. Yeah, I mean, the storm's probably 170 miles wide. I'm just using that for quick mathematical purposes. 160 miles wide, moving at even if it were maybe 10 miles an hour, it would take 16 hours to get out of, just this main part of the storm, this main component. The outer bands, they're going to be around for a while. Look at these things. And that's where you're going to get your inflated rainfall totals, where these outer bands go, and those they're completely unpredictable. You don't know where those are going to go exactly. But this area here that's in an outer rain band for 3 hours is going to get more rain than this area here that's getting none. That's why some areas could show 20, 30, 40 inches of rain, and this area here just show 10 or 12. That's why, because of those outer bands. Let's see where the Hurricane Hunter. Let's check the power outages. 483,000 in Florida before I refresh the page. I'm refreshing the page. Holy mackerel. 646,000 customers now without electricity in Florida. Over 500,000. Just jumped up by nearly 200,000 customers. Thank you, Larkstar from South Carolina. Absolutely. Oh, it looks like we might have lost our camera here. Might have lost both of them. Don't know. In fact, I wanted to do something here, guys. I want to check. I want to go to this side if I can. Yep, that one's offline. I am not at all surprised. None there. That one, that's the one we were on. It's looking at the back side of that wall. Well, you can see the harbor there. It looks like, does it work? It does work. But it's kind of broad. We can't really tell much. This one work? It does. Let's check this one here. Oh my goodness. Look at that. Are you serious right now? There you go. That's the front side of the storm. That's the front of the eye wall. Tucker Grand, 75 south? Mile marker 146. Are you serious? Look at that. Now, I'd say there's some 100-mile-an-hour wind gusts in there, wouldn't you? You be the judge. You tell me. Look at that. That's a complete whiteout. Looks like a blizzard, like it's snowing. That's rain. Whoa. Hey, Destiny. Thank you, Destiny. Over here looking at I-75. This is right in that front quadrant that we were just talking about. That is typically the strongest part of the storm. And this looks incredibly strong. There's no way you could drive in these conditions right here. Your wipers couldn't keep up with the speed of the rain, the rainfall. Whoa. I think that's the strongest one I've seen yet. See, this is just getting underway. It's going to be a long duration event, guys. Yeah, it's going to travel to the northeast, going across central Florida, up to northeast Florida. It's just going to bring a lot of... It's going to be remembered for its rain, even though this looks incredibly windy right here. And there's a car. Wow, look. You know, their wipers can't keep up. They're white knuckling it over there. For real. That's white knuckle driving right there. They got a grip on that steering wheel. They need to pull over underneath that overpass and just sit there for a minute. Shouldn't be out in it anyway. You're putting yourself at risk because that's obviously a terrible situation. I mean, there's flying debris there. A tree could come flying out of the forest there on the side. They should have pulled over there just for a second and kind of let this pass. Wow, they're in the front eye wall. They're in the strongest part of the storm. Whoa. Right here, you would have to seek shelter. You shouldn't be out in this right here. There's no way. This is near Port Charlotte. That's where this is at. Take you to the radar. And the reason it looks like it does right there, it's right in here. Fort Myers, I think Port Charlotte, Northport. This area right in here is where that camera's at. Right in here. And that's part of the strongest part of the storm, that and the right-hand side. But I will say this one here, the back left part of the storm was showing very strong winds back there. As strong as the right at times. Fluctuates. It's a moving object, you know. It's always changing. It changes every second. So 5 minutes it might read 110, and then 5 minutes later it might show 90, you know, so it's constantly changing. Wow, we're in the... Again, I'm surprised that the camera mount's even holding. Whatever it's mounted to is being heavily influenced by these winds and rain. Woo. Well, it's officially made landfall, guys. And it's nearly 3 p.m. in Florida. And maybe not quite this strong with regard to wind, but there's going to be tropical storm conditions for the next 36 hours. Slowly moving from southwest Florida to northeast Florida. And there's going to be flash flooding in various places. Again, it's going to depend on, which it's impossible to say right now because the outer bands are also, you know, manifesting. They grow hour by hour, so you can't predict those days in advance. So wherever these outer bands train over an area, those are the areas that are going to see the inflated rainfall totals. Yep, the areas that are in line, perfectly in line with the outer bands, that's where the rain's going to accumulate the most. And then, of course, right here, you can see yourself. There's like a blizzard in the middle of wintertime. Wow, that is some kind of a storm right there. You can start to see water accumulating on both sides of the road. Just incredible. Look at that. You shouldn't be out driving in conditions like that. I used to chase tornadoes back in the day. I don't anymore. When I lived in Tornado Alley, which is kind of moved now, but it's not really in the same place where it used to be. But I chased a couple one that did touch down. I saw it in the sky. This was before smartphones and all the gadgets that we have today. I was just driving and wasn't really prepared for it. And I saw the tornado come down out of the sky. It looked like a horizontal ice cream cone that went vertical. It made contact with the soil. And at first, when it first touched the ground, it was clear. You really couldn't see the vortex. Once it started sucking up dirt off the ground, because it was over a tilled cornfield, and it was pulling up the loose soil revealed the vortex, and then you could see the tornado. And I knew the tornado was moving northeast away from me because I was on a road that was traveling due east and west. So I turned around, went back east, and followed the storm, and I knew it was safe. It wasn't coming towards me. It was moving at a slight angle away from me. And that tornado stayed on the ground for 17 or 18 miles, did a lot of damage. I think it was an EF3. I saw it take out 2 grain silos and took a roof off of a farmhouse. It was in 1995. Man, this is just fierce. Wow. Quick update. There's the eye wall there. Pine Island, Bokeelia. The sun's out right there. People probably, I'm not saying they are literally, but you can sit on the beach and catch you a tan right there right now. Yeah. Here we'll measure it. Rotunda down to, let's just say, just north of Sanibel. So let's remember, Rotunda, we'll come back to this camera here in just a second. This one here shows the vegetation on the road. Rotunda, we're going to measure the eye wall here while we can. Okay. There's Rotunda. And where's the north? Okay, right. Okay, we can do it. Let's do it right here. We're going to measure the eye wall. Right there. There's your number. I don't know if you can see it or not. Let me try to pull this up. Whoops, sorry. Right there. 32.85 miles. That's how big the eye wall is. 32.85. That's how big the eye wall is of Hurricane Ian. That's slowly moving in right now as I do this video. See how the plane's crisscrossing inside the eye? The eye wall's right there. And they're going through the left side, the right side, the front, the back, obviously the center. That's how they'll do it. And they'll make another pass through here, and then they'll go back up to where they came from. It's this plane right here. That's the plane that takes the measurements that meteorologists use, everybody uses. That's where it comes from. And it goes to right here, the National Hurricane Center. It comes from this plane right there. Still seeing debris. Let's go back to this one here. This one was, wow, this is on the front right part of that storm. Looks like we're in the middle of winter experiencing a full-fledged blizzard. Looks like snow. Strong storm, guys. Very strong storm. No, didn't make it to Cat 5, but it was very close. It was 2 miles per hour from officially being a Category 5, according to the National Hurricane Center. We got a long ways to go. This thing's going to be on land now for a day and a half. Yeah, until Thursday evening. And it's just Wednesday afternoon, so it's not necessarily going to be in this capacity that we're seeing right here, but it's going to be on land for a day and a half as a tropical storm. So, you know, what I would do if I lived in, which I've been in one, I was in Central Florida during a hurricane, during 3 hurricanes, and there goes a truck. Look at that guy. So what to expect moving forward from now? I mean, obviously this area here is going to be without power for an extended period of time. Took on the brunt of the storm where it made landfall. That made landfall as a very powerful Category 4 storm. Took on a lot of storm surge. There's going to be extensive flooding in this area. Power outages for an extended period of time. There's just no other way around it. Where the storm's going to go from here? It's going to go north-northeast. It's going to move in this direction here. Right now, according to the latest model. And it's going to go right up this way here. So, if you're in Winter Haven, if you're in Kissimmee, especially western Kissimmee, western Orlando, Altamont Springs is up here, Deltona, Daytona Beach, Palm Coast, St. Augustine, all of these areas here. You guys are going to start to experience these outer bands. Some of you are going to be right in the middle of some of these outer bands. And some of you could receive as much rainfall as they've gotten down here near the eye wall because you're in an outer band. Those outer bands are loaded with moisture. I mean heavy. So you can see these outer bands moving your way. Then the center of what's left of Hurricane Ian will be a tropical storm. Then you're going to get heavy rain from the center of this storm, what's left of it. You may not have the high winds, but you're going to have an exponential amount of water coming from the core. You're going to get the outer and you're going to get the inner core. So heavy rain in Orlando, heavy rain in Kissimmee, heavy rain in Altamont Springs, the Villages, Claremont, Dr. Phillips, actually been there, Haines City, Polk City, Lake Mary, Sanford, Deltona, DeLand, De Leon Springs, the Villages, outer bands, all these outer bands. It's impossible to say what specific communities are going to experience the outer bands, but they're going to bring a lot of rain. They're going to bring it. And then, like I said, the core, what's left of the core, it's still strong now. It's still a powerful hurricane. But again, the direction it's going to move, it'll be right up in through here. So you guys in these areas here will see a lot of rain over the next 36 hours. You're not going to see the core for another 20 hours, but you're going to get the outer band. So you're going to get rain off and on, off and on, off and on. You're going to be in an area that's going to see a lot of mesocyclone activity. In fact, there's a new tornado warning right now. In fact, let's go check it out. Keep my word. I said I would keep an eye on these, and I will. This one expires in 33 minutes. It's a new one. It's more than likely the same thing that we've been reading. I'll read it, though, just to stay on top of this because it is important. We don't want to get caught in a tornado. But radar indicated rotation, and this red, what looks like a rectangle-ish type shape, could see a tornado in the next 33 minutes. So it's under a tornado warning for 33 minutes. But right now, what they've seen has just been in the sky. Heavy rain throughout parts of central Florida. Big time heavy rain, guys. You're going to experience off and on flash flooding. The outer bands you're going to experience first. Then you're going to get this very wet core as it moves over the central part of Florida up to Palm Coast, St. Augustine. Outer bands once again in Jacksonville, probably high winds. I think they just reported wind speeds of 41, gusts of 51 mile an hour in Jacksonville, Florida. Going up here to the coast, it's a little too early to say with regard to the coast of South Carolina and Georgia. It could make landfall in Georgia as a tropical storm. Right now, it's supposed to make landfall just north of Savannah, or in the Savannah area as a tropical storm. That could change because that's 2 days out. So it is going to change. Any forecast that's over 24 hours, just know it's going to change to some degree. No way around it. This one here, when it got within 24 hours of the coast, you kind of knew it was going towards Cape Coral. Wasn't going to change much. It was going to change some, but not enough to take it that far off track to where it was not going to go into the Cape Coral area, Fort Myers area. Yeah, it's really, really tough going right now in the Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda. see here on I-75, and this is in that area right there in the northeast part of the storm. I mean, it is just like a full-out blizzard of snow, but that's rain. You can barely see 100 yards down the road. So this storm, once again, will be remembered for its rainfall totals and storm surge. Storm surge is occurring right now. Right now, as we do this video, storm surge is occurring. Look at that. I'm surprised the camera mount has held up. It's a good quality when whatever kind it is. It's definitely a good quality when it looks like I said, we're in a blizzard. That is actually rain in front of that's the leading edge of the eye wall of Hurricane Ian. Right here. See, it's right on the I-75 corridor. Right here is where that camera's at. Check this out. It's right here. Wow. So there you are, guys. You're in the strongest part of the storm right there. There you go. You saw it firsthand. You're in it. You are in the strongest part of Hurricane Ian. You're right in it. You are in the strongest part of the storm. So right here, there probably are winds of 100 mile an hour plus. I'd say by the looks of it, yeah. What exactly? I have no idea. But those don't look like 40 mile an hour wind gusts. No way. But now out away from the eye wall, yeah, you're going to have 40, 50, 35. I mean, and those are going to be constant. I remember when Hurricane Francis went through, there was 36 hours of 35 to 45 mile an hour winds, sustained. But did they ever get up to 100? No, never. Not anywhere. And that thing stretched out over 700 miles. It was just a big, slow, cumbersome, more of a huge tropical storm. It was briefly a hurricane, but you looked at it, you're like, how can that thing even get going, get cranked up? It's so big. It was like this storm here. This storm got cranked up. It was big and impressive. Like I said, it reminded me of a combination of Francis, and it looked just like Katrina there for a while. On satellite presentation, it did. It had the same exact structure, satellite presentation as Katrina. Because every storm is unique. They all experience different types of wind shear that's going to give them a different shape. They're all not shaped exactly alike. And that's because of the atmospheric influence by wind shear and things like that. High fronts, high pressures come in and can adjust the shape. You know, they run into invisible forces that we can't see. But if you pay attention to the storm will reveal those invisible forces to you. Like that real long outflow channel that this storm had for a long time yesterday. It was showing you a ridge of high pressure and wind shear. That's why it stretched out all the way up to Maine. It had an outflow channel from the South Gulf of Mexico all the way up to basically Nova Scotia. That was the ridge of high pressure. It was just showing it to you. That's all it was doing. But it influenced the shape of the storm. A lot of factors involved that you really don't see. But boy, this here you see, and you can tell it's very windy. The rain is just coming down at an incredible pace. You couldn't be out in this. You couldn't drive in it. You wouldn't be able to see where you're going. And you know what? as difficult as it may be, I think you're starting to see water accumulate over here on the left-hand side of the road. These trees look like they're standing in a lot of water. And it looks like right up here, the water is coming up on the road. Again, this is I-75 south of mile marker 145. And this is in the strongest part of the storm. Right here is the I-75 corridor, and this is right where the camera's at. And I mean, it is really, really cranked up right in here. I'd say without any doubt those are 100-mile-an-hour wind gusts. I'm not necessarily saying sustained, but I would say that there are wind gusts in there of 100 pretty easy. If they were 155, it would probably take the camera off the mount. I don't think they're 155. I really don't. But 100, yeah, I would say conservatively 100, maybe 110. Gusts, not sustained. Woo! I mean, that is just unbelievable. It's like we're inside of a dishwasher. Put a GoPro in a dishwasher and turn it on. That's probably what it would look like. Holy cow. So you know that harbor, which is in this area, the harbor by Port Charlotte and Punta Gorda is taking on water and storm surge right now. It's coming from the sky, and it's coming from the kinetic energy, the forward motion of the storm. Remember, hurricanes push, tornadoes pull. Just remember that. Hurricanes push, tornadoes pull. They're different types of vortexes is what I'm saying. Cyclones, typhoons, hurricanes are big, massive vortexes that push down towards the ground. And a tornado is a more thin, some of them are wide wedges that are half-mile wide. They pull up. That's why a tornado will get black. It's because it's pulling dirt up off the ground. And sometimes vegetation. So it'll be mixing dirt, vegetation, and it'll turn black sometimes. It's because it's sucking things up off the ground. You'll see things flying through the air. A big storm like this can, depending on, the direction. I remember Hurricane Irma pushed all the water out of Tampa Bay. Pushed it out, it just disappeared. Hurricanes push, tornadoes pull. Just the basic laws of physics. This right here is just mind-boggling. You can't even see the bridge anymore. There's an overpass over there that's not even visible. You're in the strongest part of the storm. And this is all heading to the north-northeast. It's going to slow down some. It's not going to be quite as strong. By the time it gets to Orlando, Daytona Beach, it's going to be a tropical storm. But you are going to see probably record-setting rainfall totals. I don't know what the record is for this time of year. I do know this. The ground in Florida, just as a general rule, right now is very saturated prior to the landfall of this storm. The ground was very wet because they've had a lot of rain this year. So, yeah, there's nowhere for the water to go except up. Oh yeah, here we go. Maria just sent me an article. Hurricane Ian is sucking water probably out of Tampa Bay. That's what Irma did. Let me see here. Yeah, it's going to do that. It'll push it out and then come back in. Yeah, Tampa Bay seeing dramatic reverse storm. Yeah, it's the offshore flow. That's that counterclockwise motion. Thank you, Maria. It's pushing. Hurricanes push, tornadoes pull. The hurricane, the right hand counterclockwise motion is pushing, because they're so big, the pressure is pushing the water out of Tampa Bay, from what I understand. That's what Irma did. So that tells you how strong this thing is. Irma emptied Tampa Bay, emptied part of the Bahamas. And this storm is in that league. And we all know what Irma did. Let's check the power outages. Wow, this is just, look at that. Wow. Okay, power outages. Here we go. Okay, before I refresh, 646 in Florida, 308 in Puerto Rico. Let's refresh. 797 now in Florida. Nearly 800,000 customers in Florida, approaching 1 million. Here's the plane. It'll make another pass, probably, I don't know, maybe to the northeast through the eye wall of the storm. This is where the plane is at right now, collecting data. So it's been out there for a couple hours, and it'll probably be out there for another hour. Boy, that is just unbelievable. Harbor View. I-75 south at mile marker 166. Those trees are so waterlogged that they're just soaked. They're leaning over on the road. That's the harbor over here. You can see it's getting brighter because the water is getting taller. It's not down so far below the tree line to where it couldn't reflect what little light that's there available. Now the water is higher because it's reflecting light. There's more water there to reflect light. And water is being pushed out of, let me go back to this here, which makes sense. That right hand counterclockwise motion is pushing water right there. It's pushing water out of Tampa, pulling water into this area here. And maybe pushing water out in some areas, but it's all going to come back. There goes a car right there. Are you serious? Wow. I don't know how the wipers can keep up. Yeah, Irma emptied Tampa Bay. Thank you, Maria, for sharing that with me. I'm focused on these cameras. I'm not able to look at other things. If you guys have something you want to share, by all means do so. My moderator's doing a good job. Lakeland said 70 to Linda Carroll. Lakeland said 70 to 90 mile-hour winds, 15 to 19 inches of rain. It's starting to get, yeah, okay, Lakeland, that sounds about right, Linda. In fact, let's take a look at Lakeland with regard to the storm. Lakeland is right in the center of Florida. I've been there many years ago. Right here. In fact, Lakeland is adjacent to Tampa. So Lakeland here, you're going to start getting outer band action in Lakeland, Kissimmee, Orlando, and the eye wall is going to come up this way. As the eye wall gets closer, there's going to be even more rain. So I would say, yeah, Lakeland, 19 inches would be a pretty safe assumption. Forecast for that area, probably the same in Orlando, 18 to 20 inches of rain. Lakeland, it's going to start getting windier and windier into the evening hours as the core of this storm gets closer to Lakeland, and it's moving in that direction. It's going to put you in a situation like they're in right now down here in Northport, Punta Gorda. It's not going to be Hurricane 4 status, but it might be Category 1. Hurricane Charlie made landfall as Category 4 and got into Orlando as a Category 2. So making this to Lakeland as a Category 1, I think would be pretty easy. So that would mean, pretty strong winds and, of course, very heavy rains in Lakeland, Zephyr Hills, Tampa. Going to see a lot of rain, again, from offshore push of wind. It's pushing the water out of Tampa Bay right now. Remember, hurricanes push. It's pushing the water out. That right-hand flow. It'll come back in, but right now that's what it's doing. The storm's going to go to the north, northeast. It's going to go right up through here, guys. So rain, heavy rains and winds for the next at least 24 hours. Possible tornadoes. Just keep an eye out for that. But most of these tornadoes don't touch ground. I remember Hurricane Francis. There were probably 50 to 100 various tornado watches and warnings throughout the span of that storm. And Hurricane Francis sat out here and rotated for about a day, and then it just crawled across the coast. It took 36 hours to get across that area right there. 36 hours. And there were tornado warnings and watches on both sides of that storm. Again, that was in 2004. And I don't think one of them touched the ground. But they were there, and they were rotating in the sky. They could have definitely turned into tornadoes, but they didn't. Not saying that they can't, because they certainly can. This here is just amazing. You know what this tells me? This tells me that this storm is slowing down, because this camera has looked like this for, I don't know, over 30 minutes. It's like the storm is not moving hardly at all. It has not changed. It's like a whiteout blizzard here in this location. And again, this is the area right here along the I-75 corridor, right in here. This is where that camera is at, right here. So, you know what? With that being said, that might put that camera here in just a minute. It might go from feast to famine here. We might go from all this to nothing here in just a moment. Because it could, because the eye wall is going to continue to get smaller and smaller. And it will become more and more disorganized the longer it stays over land. That's how they all do. So this might just end up in the center of the eye wall. We'll have to wait and see. We'll keep an eye on that one. This one here has been like this for over 2 hours. Those trees are so waterlogged and heavy. There went a branch right there. It just went across the road. And that's looking south towards the harbor, near Port Charlotte. Punta Gorda is actually over there somewhere, right over in there. Obviously you can't see it, but that's where it's at. Wow. Oh my goodness. Let's look at the power outages. Last time was 797, still 797. Flight radar. So this thing will swing back up through the eye once, maybe 2 more times. I don't know their exact route, but that's what it's been doing. I've been following Teal 71 for a couple days now. And it's been on this storm since it got north of Cuba. It's made several passes through the storm. There's also another plane. I don't see it. It's more of a jet like this one here. It's not this one. It's a NOAA plane. But it also stays out for hours taking readings. I mean, hours at a time. Taking readings of the storm and its different, aspects. Do a good job. I mean, hours. I'm talking like 8-9 hours at a time. So they have to have crews. You know, that's not one crew that does all that. Tell you what, guys, it's looking more and more like this storm is slowing down. And if it does slow down, just being real. I've been real with you. With everything. I always am. That's just who I am. But that means more rain, more rainfall. That has not been confirmed. That's just going based off of an observation that I'm seeing here. These cameras are not showing any sign of this thing letting up. I'm talking about with forward speed. The forward speed's at 9 miles per hour. This should have already been in the eye wall. So it may be slowing down. Hopefully it doesn't stall, but it does look like, from what I'm seeing here, that it could be slowing down some. Because this has been in this edge of the eye wall for a long time. That is absolutely incredible. What a strong storm. And again, this will be remembered for its storm surge and its water component. Whether it come from the sky or the saltwater component, the water that's pushed in, storm surge. And it's hard to get away from that. Yep. You can hide from the wind. You can get into an interior room with no windows, but storm surge, there's just no escaping that. So hopefully everybody got out that needed to get out. I really mean that. I want you guys to be safe, man. That's really what it's all about. Be safe. These things here ain't nothing to mess with. Not like this. The satellite presentation is still just incredible. It's just hardly being influenced by the land. And see this outer edge over here? That's showing you where the high pressure is at right here. That's what that means. It's showing you what you can't see. There's a ridge of high pressure right there. And that's what's steering this storm right there. That's how you read that. The storm shape will show you its environment. And this environment right here is wet and windy as it can be. I just don't know how it could rain any harder. And another thing, you know, the gators and just think of the wildlife that are out there. Think about how disoriented they are. They've never experienced anything probably quite like this. When this passes, they're going to think they're on another planet. Look at that. It's gotten stronger. Wow. I've seen some landfalls, but I've never seen one quite like this. Just saying, I watched Irma make landfall, and it didn't have this type of longevity. And there were over 6 million outages with Irma. Wow. Yeah, it's a big time storm, guys. Hope everybody got out. Over here at poweroutage.us, there's been a new update. Over 808,000 customers now, getting close to 1 million in Florida. It's more than double the number of power outages in Puerto Rico. There's still 309,000 customers in Puerto Rico from Hurricane Fiona that was well over a week ago. Right here. The entire island was without power after Fiona went past. And now looking at Florida, 800,000 customers without electricity right now as I do this video. Right there's why. And that's going to make it even more complicated to get in and make the necessary repairs, because obviously you can't do it in this type of weather. And then after the weather, just look at that car going in that. Bro, don't do it. Oh, wow. A car just drove in there. I mean, what would be so necessary that you would have to drive into the eye of a hurricane? Really, think about it. Ask yourself that. You just saw a car go in there. Number one, there's nothing over here that's open. There's no type of grocery store or place to get fuel. What? Who just did that? Wow. I don't know. Yeah, I watched Irma make landfall, and this one here is oh my goodness. I don't know. I'm honestly speechless looking at some of these cameras. That is just incredible. Like I said, I hope everybody got out. Anytime a storm makes landfall that looks like it's going to go into a harbor that's loaded with, you know, little tributaries and creeks and rivers and things like that, and it's above category 2, it's nothing to play with. It's really not. Because you can end up in a very tough situation like what you're seeing right here, and there's no way out, you know. Those trees and the ground is so waterlogged. Something else that happens when the ground gets really waterlogged and the trees are obviously heavy, the water makes the trees heavier. There's a water weight component associated with these big powerful storms. These storms not only deliver, you know, very heavy and sometimes, you know, impressive rain. This storm is not letting up at all. The eye wall has still got its act together. But the water weight component, you know, luckily there's not a earthquake component down here in Southwest Florida because there's not a whole lot of fault line activity or earthquakes in that area. But a storm like this adds a lot of weight to the Florida Peninsula, you know, and it was already saturated. So just think of the water weight component from all this wind, and these trees get waterlogged. The ground is saturated with water. Now some of these trees are going to fall over just because the roots lose their footing because of oversaturation. So it just creates a domino effect of a variety of things. Yeah, like I said, I thought Irma was strong. Irma was a one of a kind. So is this one. So is this one. Ian will be one for the record books. Wow. Let's see where the hurricane hunters are at. Okay, they're going back to the north now, and that's what they'll do. That's what they've been doing. And they'll make several passes through the eye wall of the storm. And again, notice, looks like a ghost town over here along the west coast of Florida with regard to airplanes. You don't see any airplanes over here. There's one right there, and that's a private jet. And that's it. There's no other airplanes over here in the west part of Florida. That's eerie looking. You don't normally see that because the main airports, the one in Tampa and the one over here in Orlando, are closed. There's also airports down here in St. Pete and, you know, smaller airports, but those are international airports. Those are closed. And you can tell there's just a handful of planes in the air above Florida, and one's offshore over here that's monitoring the hurricane itself. Airports are closed. Maria updated us on the Tampa Bay situation, the offshore flow of the counterclockwise rotating storms pushing the water out of Tampa Bay. It'll come back, but it's out at the moment. That's some strength. That's a strong storm that can do that because water is heavy. That area right there is so saturated and waterlogged. Again, keep in mind, you know, gators get lost in here now. Going to lose their bearings. This isn't letting up. It is just not letting up. I think this thing is slowing down. I really and truly do. I think this thing has slowed down exponentially. It was at 9. I don't know. Let's see. 12. It's 12:30 here already. Okay. So that means it's 3:30 in Florida. So there'll be an updated forecast here in about 30 minutes. And I would be very, very surprised if the forward speed doesn't slow down. Right now, the forward speed is at 9 miles per hour. I think that's going to slow down to about 5. That's just a guess. That has not been confirmed. But I'm thinking based off of what we're seeing here and the longevity of this very, very intense weather, that this thing is slowing down. It is no longer moving at 9 miles per hour. It's probably moving at around 5. That's just my guess. We'll see. We'll see what the experts say. Okay, the guys that have the equipment that can measure that accurately. I'm going based off of what we're seeing here. And this has gone on for a very, very long time. And that indicates to me that this thing's slowing down, for sure. At least to me. That's the way I calculate it. I mean, I could probably do it mathematically by how far it's moved in the last 30 minutes, do some math. But based off of what we're seeing here on these cameras, this has been about as intense as you can get. And that's in the front eye wall, part of the eye wall of the storm. It's slowing down. Because we should have already been in the eye here. And we're not even close. So if this thing does slow down, which it probably will, and you know what? That was forecasted a couple days ago that this thing may slow down. At one point, they were predicting a stall, which is worst case scenario. You never want a tropical storm to stall. That's the absolute worst case scenario. Next to a stall at nighttime. That's the worst case scenario. A stall on the coast at nighttime, there's nothing good about that. But if this thing does slow down, let's say it slows down to 5 miles per hour. Okay, well, going from right here where it's at, let's just use Lakeland as an example. That's 100 miles away exactly. Okay, so if it's going at 5 miles per hour, I'm just using that for mathematical purposes. 100 miles per hour, it's going to take 20 hours to get from where it's at now to Lakeland. 20 hours. That's assuming that this thing has slowed down to 5 miles per hour. So 20 hours worth of rain between here. 20 hours of rain between here and here. 20 hours. That's what I'm looking at based off what we're seeing. 20 hours. And that's where the eye wall will be in 20 hours around Lakeland. So not only will you get the outer bands, then you'll start to get the outer fringes of the core, which is, moderate rain. And then when you get to the core, obviously the edge of the core, you can see what's going on here, and it is no joke. That is a full-fledged, very powerful hurricane. And again, this one will go down in the record books for sure. So if it slows down, the rainfall totals, I guess another thing I'm trying to say, if it slows down, the forward speed slows down, not the wind speed. This thing's not going to be remembered for its high winds. It's going to be remembered for rain and storm surge. If it slows down, look for the rainfall accumulation totals to increase. If it were to speed up, the rainfall total accumulations would decrease. But if it slows down, they have to increase. That's just simple math. So if they say 19 inches now, that's based off of the forward movement at 9 miles per hour. So what happens if it slows down to half of that? 4.5 miles per hour, 5 miles per hour. Does that mean that your rainfall totals would double? Pretty close. Now you're getting up into that 50 range. That's laughable when you see it. But if it slows down like Hurricane Harvey did, then that's what Harvey did. Harvey went down in the record books as a storm that will be remembered forever, that dropped 50 inches of rain. So if this slows down, I'm not saying it's going to, but it does kind of look like it is. based off of this camera right here. It's been like this in this capacity for an hour. It's like we're watching a infinite loop of extreme hurricane landfall footage. This is real time. Wow. Looks like this road's taking on water now. Can't keep up with the... Well, the water's probably running out of places to go, is what's happening. And you're seeing storm surge occur in real time. Looks like the camera might be moving a little. I don't know. I wouldn't doubt it. It's been hanging in there tough for a long time. It's been dealing with some very strong winds and heavy rains. Looks like a blizzard out there in both these locations. And these are on the I-75 corridor. This thing here is amazing. Tucker Grand, mile marker 146, I-75 south. Just amazing. Oh, here's a vehicle here. Are you serious? Wow. That's all I can say. It's just wow. You know, I'm a storm chaser. Used to be. But I think I would be a little bit leery of going out and driving in that type of an environment. In fact, I know I would. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. No matter how much I wanted to go get the footage, there's just no way. It's too risky. It's just not worth it. Nope. You can see water accumulating here along the side of the road. And again, remember, ground saturation. These trees are waterlogged now, literally. They're just soaked with rain. So they're going to get heavy, and they're just going to start leaning over and sagging to the ground. Like you would see in a blizzard type situation where an area gets a foot of snow and the tree branches sag to the ground. You're going to have the same type of scenario here in some areas where the trees are very thick here along the side of the road, and they're leaning on each other. They're heavy, and the weight accumulates one into another, and so the ones in the front are taking the brunt of the weight of the trees behind. That's why this one over here is leaning out on the road, because of the trees behind it. They're heavy. But this is not showing signs of speeding up. It's actually showing signs of slowing down big time. And that was forecasted. That's what they forecasted 2 days ago, that this thing would get right here and slow down quite possibly to a stall. And honestly, I'm just saying, based off of what I'm seeing right now, the forward speed of this thing has changed a lot. But we'll see. We'll see the next update. Don't take my word for it. We'll wait and see what the National Hurricane Center says here in about, well, there's not going to be, well, nope, there won't be a, yeah, there will. There'll be an update, an intermediate update in about 20 minutes. And hopefully they'll have a new forward speed. Whether it stays the same or changes a little bit, I don't know. But to me, it looks like it's slowed down. Here's the hurricane plane. It's interested here in this right-hand side, which right down in here is where the plane is focusing on right now. Might be measuring that forward speed. I don't know. But I think it's slowed down a lot, guys. A lot. By like a factor of 2. It's slowed down probably to 5 miles an hour. If I had to guess, I'm just taking a guess, and that is a sheer guess. We'll know in 20 minutes when they do a new update. But I'm going to guess 5. Look at that big rig. What is that thing? What? Holy mackerel. Wow. Yeah, the creatures out here, the gators, and I know there's a variety of different types of snakes in Florida, iguanas. There's all kinds of species of wildlife in Florida. In this area, they're going to be very disoriented after all this rain and wind and flooding and storm surge that's just by default going to displace them into places that they're foreign to. So, anywhere in these areas, there's going to be flash flooding across central Florida for the next couple of days, all through here. So there could be creatures moved all over the place through here. So be on the... I remember driving across the Beeline, which is right here. I think it was. Is that the 535? I'm just taking a wild guess, but I've driven on it. Used to call it the Beeline Highway, and it went east to the East Coast. But I remember one day driving through here, and I crossed an overpass. In fact, it might have been that one right there. And I looked over, and there were two gators down here sunbathing in the sun. They were kind of laying in the mud, the warm mud. You would see that from time to time. They're all around, but they kind of stay hid from people for the most part. But they like all these little bodies of water and stuff like that. And sometimes they'll end up by an overpass highway like that one there. And I do think that is the Beeline Highway. But anyway, what I'm saying is those same gators could be displaced very easily by all of the upcoming flash flooding that's going to happen. I mean, you can see right here, they don't issue this very often over here at the Weather Prediction Center. And when they do, they're pretty sure of themselves, So, yeah, there's going to be flash flooding. 2-day event. Thursday, as I mentioned earlier, Thursday and Friday. 2 days of flash flooding throughout central Florida. That extends from northeast Florida all the way through to beyond Lakeland and Polk City, all the way down through there, guys. So that's going to displace a lot of gators and different things. Different types of species are going to get caught up in these floodwaters, whether it be flash flooding or storm surge. Wow. Little birds over there in them trees, they have no idea what's going on. I mean, that's rough. That is rough. Wow, especially this one here. Tucker grade, mile marker 146. It's just not showing any signs of letting up. This thing's slowing down, guys. Yes, sir. It's slowing down. Let's look at the power outages. That's not cool. It's not slow down that much. That means your rainfall totals are going to go up. Okay, 808. That's 808,000. Now it's at 810,000 in Florida. And look for that number to only go up. Because honestly, this thing just made landfall, so it's just getting started. Just getting started. Honestly, I'm sitting here looking at this in just a state of astonishment at its duration. I watched Irma landfall, probably like a lot of you did. You guys all remember Hurricane Irma. I'm telling you, this one here would give Irma a run for her money any day. Easy. And Irma was moving. It didn't slow down at the coast like this one is. This one's slowing down. That's going to compound the situation. So look for your rainfall totals to change. It does look like to me it is indeed slowing down. Yep. I'm going to tell you a way you can kind of gauge that too. Let me show you something here. This outflow channel here is telling you that there's a ridge of high pressure here. Okay, that ridge of high pressure, more than likely, is all over here. That's why you have clear skies. But that ridge of high pressure is creating kind of like an atmospheric drag, if you will, on the storm. It's causing the storm to slow down. I can see it. All this is high pressure over here, okay? It's influencing the storm. It's responsible for the shape of the storm, okay? And it's also responsible for the forward movement of the storm. And I think it's influencing the storm quite a bit right now. It's not influencing the shape. I mean, it's still very well defined. You can see it's starting to lose some of its horsepower over here on the northeastern part of the storm. But I think overall it's slowing down. It's still going to be there. There's still going to be the rain. There's still going to be the gusty winds. You're seeing it kind of lose its category 4 stripes. Now it's probably down to a category 1 would be my guess. But this thing still has a lot of horsepower. Wow. I'm just amazed. Like I said, I watched Irma, and Irma was very impressive with regard to its strength and how long it lasted. It traveled over 4,000 miles and got here and threw a fit after it traveled 4,000 miles. This thing here didn't even travel 500 miles. It's got a lot of horsepower. I'm telling you. I am very curious to see what the next update has to offer with regard to that forward speed. Let's look and see. Still 2 p.m. There'll be a 4 p.m. intermediate update here in about 15 minutes. We'll just see. I'm guessing 5, but I'm not. I don't have instrumentation to measure it accurately. I think that's what they're doing here. These are the hurricane hunters, and they're probably measuring that forward speed. They've already taken their core measurements right there, and now they're looking at the forward speed, would be my guess. But I think right there, it just lost some of its horsepower, but I think it's stalled. Whew. Waiting on that update. Here comes another vehicle, I think. Okay, they're out in front of the, well, they're in the eye wall right now, the leading edge of the eye wall. It's going to be a minute before they even drive out of it. I don't know how their wipers can keep up. They're going to run into trees up here. There's a tree right there on the ground. They got to get over in the left-hand lane. They are. Wow. Here comes another one. My guess is they got floodwaters, and they hightailed it out of the floodwaters before it got too much. There's one going in. Probably trying to go in and get somebody, would be my guess. I'm not sure what's going on here. They're going really slow, which is a good idea. There's actually 2 vehicles there. That one doesn't have his lights on. Turn your lights on, dude. Look at that. Man. This person over here in this right-hand lane was probably going in to try to get somebody out. Now you've got that person in a tough spot. They're in a tough spot. I guarantee you they're going in to get somebody that stayed. And they're wanting to get out now because the storm surge is coming up so high. And even if the storm surge is at 2 feet, it's going to be very difficult for your car. Well, your car couldn't drive in 2 feet of water. It'd be up in the motor. It'd stall. 3 feet would be impossible unless you had a 4-wheel drive truck. And then that would be pushing it. I know, I used to have one. Huh. I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of is why somebody would be going into the harbor area where there's storm surge. They're probably going to try to get somebody out. That would be my only guess. At this stage of the game, yeah, that's the only reason why they'd be going in there. Look at that. They're probably going in to try to get somebody out. That's unbelievable, guys. Like I said, I watched Irma. Irma didn't even do that. This would give Irma a run for her money. Guarantee you. Whoa. I just... Wow. I don't know what to say. That still has a phenomenal satellite presentation. It's just a unbelievable storm. Let's see if they've done an update yet. Not yet. Not yet. Here's the hurricane hunters still out here. They're off the coast of Naples, Fort Myers. It's kind of hanging around. Here comes another vehicle. Wow. Again, that's the harbor over there, so you know that there's a lot of extra water over there that's not normally there. The new update should be soon. That's kind of what I'm waiting to see. I just can't believe the intensity here that's gone on for so long. I mean, typically with the landfalls that I've seen over the years, this type of intensity will last 30 minutes tops. This has gone on for 2 hours. At just a very high-end pace. Took one camera off the pole, almost. And I'm sure others. That's just the one I happened to see. It broke something. The camera was facing a completely different direction. So something gave way. This one's still holding its direction. The other one that I have it on is holding steady. I don't know how. It says a lot about the hardware that's holding this stuff in place. And the people that mounted it, they did a good job. Wow, that is some kind of intense. And remember, the gators and various creatures are going to be very disoriented after all this heavy flooding, flash flooding, heavy rain, the ground being so waterlogged that's going to move their food source. That's the thing. Any type of creature, they were talking here a while back about armadillos being up in southern Illinois. Well, they're following the food. That's all. They're following their food supply. These creatures here, once they do kind of get, reoriented here, where's their food at? Because their food supply now is going to be scattered all over the state. So they're going to be, scurrying around looking for food in places that they don't normally look. Wow. That plane is right down here. I think the plane is trying to get a handle on this thing's forward momentum. We'll see. Still, it's a 2 p.m. update. Yeah, this camera's starting to move now because we're not able to see the full left-hand lane down here. See how it's starting to go towards the right? Before we could see all the way down this road, now we can't. So it too is getting waterlogged, like these trees and the ground, everything. Houses are going to settle after all this. Every home Every home that's impacted by this storm, especially where the landfall was made, and the path of this storm where the drenching core goes, every home in the path of this thing is going to settle over the next month. Watch, you'll see new cracks in your walls. Pay attention. You'll see cracks in your hairline cracks. Oh, now it's gone back. You'll see hairline cracks in your ceiling, in your walls. Not everywhere, but there'll be one or two new ones. That's because your house foundation has settled. Yes, absolutely it will. And in some cases, a lot. It happens under normal conditions, let alone extreme situations like this here. Every home in the path of this storm is going to settle. Whether it be a half an inch, 3 inches, and sometimes it settles more on one side of the house than it does the other. And guess what? That's what creates the hairline cracks you see above your doorways, in your walls, in your ceilings, where your wall meets the ceiling, in corners up, you'll see cracks. That's why. Because of the new stress created by the imbalance. So it's going to naturally try to find balance on its own. And in the journey to find balance, it may have to create a crack or two, not only in the wall, but the foundation. If you have a slab home, which a lot of the homes are on concrete slab, well, your slab's going to probably find balance its own way, and that way it's going to by creating cracks. Just look for it here in about a month, maybe sooner. Wow, just the longevity of this is amazing. It hasn't let up in a couple hours. Oh, there's a waterway right there. I didn't see that water earlier. Any updates over here, guys? Not yet. All right. Still going. All right, let's see what we've got over here at the Hurricane Center. Do we have an intermediate update? Not yet. I'm surprised. Power outage update over here at poweroutage.us. Yes, we do have an update. Now up to, as of about 1 my time, maybe 4 o'clock Eastern time. Wow, 850,000 customers in Florida without electricity as Hurricane Ian is making landfall. Still has a very defined eye wall. This has been going on now for 2 or 3 hours, and I personally, and again, this is just me talking based off of what we're seeing here via this camera and this one here that have not changed in what seems like an eternity. The storm has slowed down considerably. So with that being said, I think that would equate to, well, it would have to equate to higher rainfall totals. And maybe that was already factored in if they were factoring in a stall or slowing down the forward speed from 9 miles an hour to 5 miles per hour. We'll have to wait and see. I don't know what it is yet. Could be the same. It certainly doesn't look like it to me, but again, if I had to guess, I would say that the next update here from the National Hurricane Center would include a modified forward speed, and that would be to the much lower side. Absolutely. Okay, it's starting to let up for the first time right here, and it's 4 p.m. Eastern time. And this one here is still not. I mean, this has just been wild over here. Off the charts. Okay, we lost our feed there for whatever reason, so I'm not surprised. I'm surprised it lasted this long, to be completely honest. Really, looks like they all may have gone offline, which doesn't surprise me. This one's still on. Let me see. Might have to redo the whole page. I don't know, guys. Something's up. It's like they may have gone offline. I think they did. No, maybe not. Yeah, maybe so. I think they did. I was waiting on the intermediate advisory. They haven't done it yet. Okay, that did go offline. So, yeah, looks like it did. This one's still going though. I am very, very surprised. But guys, I'm gonna keep an eye on things throughout the day. I've been following this since day one, since it was south of Cuba in the Caribbean Sea. Something I've done for 18 years since I was in the middle of Hurricane Charlie. Ever since that day, I was hooked, and I had to understand these things. And I've learned a lot over the years about hurricanes, tropical storms, cyclones, and typhoons. More than I could share in one video. Am I an expert? Absolutely not. There's too much to learn about these changes, and they're an evolving type of thing that we have going on, around the world. It does look like these storms are getting bigger and stronger, but they're all unique anyway in their own regard. Some are bigger and some are stronger. That's just the way it's always been. But I've always been very intrigued by tropical storms and hurricanes, and just because I don't live in Florida, just know that I did, and I was in the middle of 3 of these things. And ever since then, I've studied them every hurricane season, and I've learned something new every hurricane season. You're never too old to learn. I certainly am not, and I learn something new, every time I study these things. Now we're getting into, looks like, flash flood warnings. Here we go. These are some new things that you guys should be aware of if you're in these areas. I'm sure you're well aware of it. Wow, what a landfall. Okay, flash flood warning expires in 3 hours and 11 minutes. Let's get some specifics. Flash flood warning for, here we go, southwestern Charlotte County in southwestern Florida, Manatee County in west central Florida, Sarasota County in west central Florida. Here we go. We might have some rainfall totals. At 3:15 Eastern Time, Doppler radar indicated and automated rain gauges indicated thunderstorms producing heavy rains across the warned area. Between 3 and 6 inches of rain have fallen. Additional rainfall amounts of 3 to 6 inches are possible in the warned area. Flash floodings are ongoing or expected to begin shortly. And that's in this area right here. And that's been in the northwestern quadrant of the storm. What we got over here? Special weather statement. All right, let's read it. Eye wall of hurricane approaching western sections of Glades and Hendry counties. Hurricane Ian continues to move north-northeast around 9 miles per hour. With this movement, radar trends indicate the eye wall of the hurricane may move over portions of western sections of Hendry and Glades counties through the remainder of the afternoon. Wind gusts in excess of 100 miles an hour have been observed in the Fort Myers area within the eye wall, and damaging hurricane force winds are expected to move across western sections of Hendry County and Glades counties over the next few hours. Hurricane force winds, widespread damage is expected. Wind gusts maximum of just over 100 miles per hour in this area. But it looks like to me, we haven't seen a new update yet. Again, like I said, I'm going to keep an eye on this. I haven't got one. And normally they're right on, and maybe it's going to be at the 5 o'clock advisory. Yeah, I think I'm an hour early. So that's something just to keep an eye on, guys, because if the forward speed does slow down, then that means the rainfall totals are going to accumulate. Again, I think it has slowed down, but that's just me. You have to wait and see what the official forecast is from the National Hurricane Center. Again, I will keep an eye on this all afternoon and all evening, and might possibly do another live stream here later. Right now, I'm starting to get parched. I need to get some water as I'm losing my voice to Hurricane Ian, who has an incredible amount of stamina. Unbelievable landfall. This storm here will definitely be one for the record books. And again, I truly believe that this storm's going to be remembered for its storm surge and its water activities more than its wind. But we'll have to wait and see. And again, this thing's going to be around for the next 36 hours as it moves through central Florida, slowly moving up into the Lakeland area, Winter Haven, Orlando, Daytona Beach, Jacksonville, St. Augustine, Palm Coast. All of you guys are going to be riding this storm out for the next 24 to 36 hours. Thanks for watching. Have a super day.